Hey everyone, welcome to We Weren't Friends in High School, the podcast where I reunite with high school classmates from my graduating class of Wissahickon High School in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I'm Brad Corbett, class of 2001. I want to thank last episode's guest, Suzie Spinelli, episode 111, if you guys haven't had a chance to check that out. It was a really fun episode, which I think is just exemplary of what a fun person Suzie is. And I continue to talk to Suzie from time to time and look forward to getting together with her again, maybe do a little happy hour or something like that soon. But this week, my guest is one of Suzie's best friends, Briannon Sujdak, aka Briannon McQuade. Briannon is really funny. You know, I feel like I've kept tabs a little bit with Briannon throughout the years. But Briannon actually is one of the first people to kind of reach out about the podcast back around the holidays, and was just very into it and had some suggestions of things that she would like to see on the podcast. And I invited her to come down and do an interview right around the same time that I was talking to Suzie about doing an interview. So really just completely coincidental, as I mentioned in episode 111, that two friends back to back ended up coming here to do the show. One after the other. So pretty cool perspective, I guess, that we will get from kind of that friendship and you know, some of the things that Suzie said. And really, we're going to get to hear from Briannon's side the impact that Suzie and Suzie's sister Chrissy and some of that group of friendships that they had there, really the impact that they had on Briannon's life. It's a pretty cool story that Briannon has here. So before we get into that, of course, before I forget, always the social media, the Instagram, We Weren't Friends in High School, the Twitter, WWF in High School. I'm at REDSHIRTPLAYA, and this podcast is available for everyone to stream, subscribe, comment, share. Appreciate everyone that continues to, you know, just even slide in my DMs and send me comments from time to time. Gives me a nice little boost of the day. So, thanks to everyone that continues to participate and share it around with people. I could definitely say that for 2019, this podcast and the interaction that I've been having with everyone has certainly been a highlight of my year. And so, looking to keep it going strong for 2020. So I guess that is all of the housekeeping business. So without further ado, let's get into it. Briannon Sujdak. Yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't I wouldn't put this. I wouldn't want to screw this on someone's.
But you were able to bring it because you traveled places.
Yeah, I got like these.
Oh, so you put them in there.
Mm-hmm. I'll take this I'll take this part off and then just put it on here.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then we'll just put it on a table and talk like that.
That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
And what do the headphones do, or what do you listen for?
I'm just listening to music in case it gets boring and I'm just zoning out, just listening to jams. No, I'm listening to the microphone just to make sure that everything sounds good. And
I was like, oh, okay.
in case this thing sucks.
No, I was like, that's typical for people. I understand that. No, but I feel like that's what kids do. Like all those kids with the AirPods in. So I was like, oh, okay. If you saying that, I wasn't even gonna. I'd be like, oh, well, okay, that seems normal.
Oh, Brad's pretty young and technically hip.
Mm-hmm. A cool train table.
Yeah, so this is a piece of shit table that I got from a thrift store. So don't worry about
Oh no. I was just thinking if you had a car, that would also occupy your time.
I thought that would be committing way too much to the joke. If I were to get toy car, then people start wondering what the fuck I'm doing with toy cars in my place.
No, but it would be cool if you had it, and then you could pass notes. I don't know. I'm thinking transport things. Yeah.
So we're gonna start.
Okay.
So Briannon.
Yes.
Are you going? Is it Sujdak?
Sujdak.
Sujdak.
Yeah, it's Polish. Okay.
Formerly McQuade.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
You're a person that I've talked to a little bit on social media over the last couple of years, and so naturally, when this podcast started, you were someone that was excited to talk to and get to know more, and Yeah, I like listening to it. I think you're doing a great job with it, so it's enjoyable. And then even now, since a couple episodes have come out, you can share it with people who don't necessarily know our school. So it's neat because I was playing it today.
And the person who I was playing it for, they were like, this is pretty cool. You know, it was me. And they were like listening to it and they thought it was interesting how you can have like conversations with people on different topics.
Yeah, it seems like everyone kind of has like a little bit of something that from high school that they attach to, whether they were like the cool kid or they were in band class or whatever. Everyone's got kind of a story or something just, to relate to. So
yeah, and people become, it's like not like a character, but I guess people can relate to those other people, which is neat, which is cool. I like it.
That was kind of like my hope that, as a side part of it, that other people would start to be able to pull stuff from it. And, you don't have to just know us specifically.
Yeah.
But it helps.
It does help. Well, it's cool to like listen back and hear about people's names and different things. And you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that in so long. Yeah, it's still in your head.
That's why I love names.
Yeah.
I love hearing names and I go, oh, that guy. Oh my God, what happened to them?
And even when sometimes people don't know the names of the people and I'm like screaming the name at them, they're like, I can't remember their last name. I'm like yelling it at in the car. And I'm like, I know their name. I remember. So that's funny. I like that.
We had a small school. Did you feel like you knew like the bulk or did you feel, Yeah,
I feel like I knew pretty much. I knew a lot of people. My sister's 2 years older and she was, her name, she's pretty unique. So, and her name stands out. My name stood out. So because we had the different names, people like teachers knew us, and my sister was older and she's very unique and she was artistic. And so a lot of teachers knew her as well. So that, and then teachers knew me, but then also other people in like older grades knew who I was. And, so I talked to as many people as possible in school. I always said hello to people and felt like I knew most of them.
Did you feel like, well, let me start, I guess, in the beginning. Where did you go to school before middle school?
I went to Stony Creek. So I grew up in Bluebell.
All right.
And I went to Stony Creek and I started there in kindergarten. And then I went up through all of Wissahickon.
Until you went to middle school?
Yeah, until middle school, yeah.
Who did you hang out with in elementary school?
In elementary school, I was friends with Nicole Westifer. She didn't end up going to our high school.
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar.
And then Kelly Brook, Megan McDougall, Kate Molt, they were friends, people I was friends with. Cassie King.
Yeah.
She was a grade above us.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah.
So she's someone that I was good friends with. Trying to think. I also had a best friend who didn't go to our school. Her name is Jen Becerra. She ended up, I know she became friends with like a lot of our friends, like people who I was close to in high school and stuff, and people still I'm friends with her. She was my next door neighbor and she went to St. Helena's. So then I did know some people from St. Helena's. And then also like Rich Stavinga.
Yep.
You know, Richard?
Yep. Tall, curly, blonde hair.
Yeah, well, Richard, yeah. And so Richard was he lives across the street and they moved here from California. So my mom at some point had to go back to work. And when she went to work, I would go to his house every morning before school. Oh. So we went to rode the bus together. And then when our sisters could drive, one of them would drive us to school. And then when either he or I could drive, we would drive each other to school. So even up through high school. So we were always which I thought was cool. And I would always go to his parents' house. I would just go hang out. And he had an older sister, Kristen, and then he had two younger brothers who were twins.
Now, were you and Richard friends though?
Yeah.
You were friends?
Yeah.
Growing up? Or at least in school, I guess, did you hang out outside of school?
Yeah. I'd go to his house a lot. I remember I cut his hair. Which is not, I'm not practiced at that. That's not necessarily something that I should. I'm not licensed in that. But I did cut his hair a couple times. I remember it's in my memories.
Because I always thought it was funny. So I used to get rides all the time from Ray Campion. Ray was one of my first friends to drive. And so he would take me and Alyssa Maley home pretty much every day. But sometimes he wouldn't be there. And so I would get a ride from, there were a couple of people I used to get rides from. Rodrigo Garcia.
I remember him.
Yeah. And Pete Schumar.
Oh.
And they would.
Were you walking distance to school?
No, my mom used to drive me. I was walking distance more or less. I lived, for high school, I lived at Edgewood.
Okay.
Edgewood Apartments right on Bethlehem Pike and Edgewood Drive. Right. If you knew where Eric lived, I was the next apartments. I was the apartments.
On Forest.
On Bethlehem Pike.
Bethlehem Pike.
Yeah, it had a pool. And,
okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was I don't know, a mile less than. So it was walking distance. There was a bus, but
Just because of the Bethlehem Pike.
It was so close. Yeah. And because it was, but you could walk like you could walk Hendrick Street all the way down, through that area. Yeah. But because it was like, I don't know, they did one and then it was such a weird roundabout way. I took the bus like twice there and everyone got so mad. They're like, where are we going? Where are we going? This isn't the route.
Yeah.
Who's the bogey on the bus? And you're like going around and then it's like, we're going right here, literally around the corner from school and everyone's just booing me off the bus. So I never took it again.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
They still have to stop at your stop though.
But no one had ever done it before. And so me coming in like once, just being lazy, let me try this stop that they have. And now I love walking. I love walking around the city and putting some headphones in. So I can't believe back then I never wanted to walk, but I was such a lazy kid.
Yeah, no, well, and it's hard though. It was more of like a suburb. So we didn't walk as much. I mean, I lived in a neighborhood and we couldn't really, I could walk around the neighborhood and actually I could walk to Giant because I was off of like Township Line.
Yeah.
I was actually where I lived next to Mermaid Lake, next to the golf course. Mm-hmm. So I was, and then Township Line Apartments was next to me. So I lived in the single family homes there. And then, so we had a sidewalk that went into Township Line. So I could walk into those neighborhoods, those houses. And then the Giant, there was a Giant there then, and like a Blockbuster Video and all that. I think it's an IHOP now.
Yep.
But
IHOP's in
and
there.
Before that, it was in a motel.
Oh God!
And it was a motel.
Yeah, across from the Double T Diner.
Yes, and that burned down and caught on fire, and then they built all that. So we used to walk. I used to like walk there, but that was like the extent of it.
God, I remember people used to talk about the Double T Diner.
Yeah, someone got murdered there or something. I don't know, but it said Double TT. I remember.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't think that's there anymore.
I never, so I never had friends growing up in Bluebell until high school, and Scott Ritter lived right on Penland Bluebell Pike. Yeah. And so that was like kind of my little entry into Bluebell a little bit. And you'd start hitting like Double T Diner and just doing stuff
and that's the same for me in Ambler.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone who lived in Ambler until I met Elisa Dovely.
Yeah.
So she lived on Tennis and her family still does. And so that's how I knew. I met her, when she came from like Ambler Catholic. So she went to our high school. But that's what I knew of Ambler. I'd never been in like a borough.
Yeah.
Like even Lansdale borough. I was like, we're afraid of like Conshohocken. I didn't go into the boroughs. We just lived in like, it was definitely a different area. But then, after I graduated from college, I did end up living on Spring Garden Street. Really? So I lived with Cassie, and her brother Ryan for about, maybe it was a little under a year.
Okay.
So I did live there, which was cool. I liked it. We walked everywhere and you could go everywhere.
I love that area. A buddy of mine just bought a house not far from there, like on the Madison Avenue side. Okay. Which is where I went to elementary school. Yeah. So it's super cool. Like I'm excited to start hanging out there again.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's such a nice area and they have so many festivals and different things to do.
Yeah, they keep building it up and I hope the businesses there get some stability. It's always a rotating door, but
it is. The restaurants they have changed. But I think that one they have is Stella. It's not Gypsy Blue. Stella's. There was a Gypsy Saloon is a place in Conshohocken, and they have a sister restaurant that's now there in Ambler. And that's pretty good. I think it is called Gypsy Blue.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, because there was Stella Blue and then Gypsy Saloon, Stella Blue closed in Conshohocken. But that place, it's Gypsy Blue in Ambler, and that's really nice. It's like the old Windrift, or was it a Wyndham?
Yeah.
It was like old school, and the building collapsed, like half of it or something collapsed, and it was a couple of different things.
Yeah, like a Finn McCool's.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yep. Yeah.
And the Lucky Well.
The Lucky Well. Yeah.
The Lucky Well.
Yep.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah. So when you went to middle school, did your friendships like stay the same? Kate Mole, all those?
They did. I would say I was still friendly with them. I became friends with like Rena Lewis. Who was Katie Pollan? Was it Katie?
Katie Pollins.
Yeah, Katie Pollins. I was good friends with her.
Last time I saw her was working right there in Ambler on Butler Pike.
Oh, really?
At the Lucky Well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen her in years. I remember going over and hanging out with her a lot at her house.
That's cool.
And being friends with her through middle school. I was friends with like Karen Applebaum.
Yeah.
Going to her house. I feel like we went to camp together, but I can't really remember.
What kind of camp do you go to?
I know I went to Burnbrae.
Where's that?
It is in like Upper Dublin area.
All right.
It was the only camp because my mom had to work. So my parents got divorced when I was like 11. And so my mom had to go back to work. And it was the only camp that would pick us up because she couldn't drive us.
Oh, yeah.
So because she worked at Temple. So, I mean, she was driving to North Philly.
Wow.
Like early in the morning, coming home late. So we had to get a van, came and picked us up and brought us out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Which was cool, though. It was a cool camp. My sister and I went. We didn't go very long. I mean, we went a couple of years until we were like old enough then to stay home by ourselves. But it was pretty cool.
I got picked up by my counselor. I used to go to country day camp at at Mermaid Lake.
Yeah.
And they used to pick us up there. And that was,
Probably smart. My mom had us go there. Could have just walked there.
Why didn't,
because we swam.
It was great. They had the pool with the slide and the great jungle gym. They had like the whole snack bar. And
Yeah, we belonged there until because I swam there from when I was like 5 until high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I swam through high school. But they just sold it, all the land, which is
I heard that.
my heart.
Yeah.
Because that was like my childhood.
Same.
Even golfing. I learned how to golf there. And I did everything. It was just, I loved it. But
I did 2 years of camp there. But then in elementary school at Shady Grove, we used to go there for like end of the year. Like
party.
That was like the farewell
fifth grade
party. Yeah. And you go and play kickball or whatever.
Yeah, we went
swim,
there too,
hot
actually.
dogs.
Wait, did we go there for high school?
I don't recall that. My last time really, like I remember going was like 5th grade.
I know that I think we went there in high school because I remember I was wearing like a bikini. So I definitely was not doing that.
Yes, we did. I completely remember
and
that.
I was like,
no, I don't
now you remember it.
No. I remember someone else, but
well, now I'm not memorable. I understand. Thanks. Jeez.
I remember playing like regulators there.
Yeah.
Like bumping out my car.
Were we seniors? I don't remember
we were
if
seniors.
were we that old. I remember because I drove
home.
home. Actually, no, because I could drive. I drove home and then got changed and then walked over. Because I used to like had a hole in the fence and we would just like go right through. So that was funny.
That is funny. Wow. You just sparked a memory in my head. Yeah.
And it looked, from what I could see from the pictures that they've shown since they've sold it, it looks exactly the same.
It does.
As
I was there 2 years ago. My mom's company does their like work party there.
Yeah.
At Mermaid Lake. And so I was there 2 years ago. And we did like the whole walk around. The cabins were all still there where we used to get changed.
Yeah.
The basketball court right in the middle of all those cabins. The pavilions, they still cooked, these shitty hot dogs that somehow taste really good there.
Yeah.
The pool, all still there. They had like a little like ice cream truck for like snow cones and stuff. It was all exactly the same.
They had the
mini golf course.
Mini golf course. I remember I got a hole in one there on my birthday one year. But also, that's where I learned how to play golf, like, because it's like a 9-hole place. Mm-hmm. So my mom started taking me out there. I was young. It was before high school. So I started golfing. And then we would but it was cool because I could just cut right through the fence.
Yeah.
Like, we just were at the iron, like the little chain link fence or whatever, and would go into the pool. And I did that a lot in the summers when I finally was old enough to stay home, by myself. So we would just go to the pool all the time.
What did you start doing? Is that what you would do for what would you do for fun, I guess, after school, middle school, high school?
But when I could drive. So I started driving in 10th grade. I started driving, I think it was like September, and I like totaled my car in October.
Same.
And I think that was my sophomore year. Maybe it was my
early.
Junior year. Maybe my junior year. But soon then I like didn't get a car then for a little while after that. Because I got in trouble. But also I had so I would go home a lot of the time after school because my mom wasn't home. My sister was there. She was a senior then. So she would be around. I would go to friends' houses some of the times after school. I played sports. In 9th grade, I played more sports. Like field hockey and that kind of stuff. So I did play field hockey. But that after 9th grade, I didn't really play any more sports. I would just go to friends' houses and go home.
That seems to be like what everyone like.
Yeah. But like friends' houses was like a big thing. And then after, so we, I got in, so I worked at Wentz Run Park and I worked in the snack stand. And that's really how like I became better friends with Cassie. And then, so I started working there and I was like 15. And then I became like a park ranger. I guess we call it a park ranger. Park attendant. Okay. So I got to drive the Gator. I don't know if you ever went there.
No. I played basketball there.
Basketball there. So like I got to drive the Gator and I drove that around. And then sometimes kids who got in trouble who needed to do like community service hours. So I'd have them. So there'd be 16, 17-year-olds that I would like, mostly boys. One kid I remember was from PW, but I'd go there when I started working. I'd go there after school and work. And then I would have like kids who had to do community service hours and have them like rake the baseball fields with me and like change the trash and work like sell pretzels and hot dogs.
Yeah.
So I worked at the park for a while. But then I just hang out with people who were around there. I was friends with Kevin Knievel. I remember him because I went to prom with him when I was a sophomore.
Interesting last name. It sounds familiar, but
there.
It's a hard last name to forget, but somehow.
He was older than us.
Okay.
And then I think he lived in the neighborhood with Chris Hoagland.
Yeah.
So I think they lived near each other.
Yeah. My life crosses with Hoagie every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was Chris Woodland, Simone Woodland. I hung out with them in high school for a time period. It's like I'm trying to think. I used to go to these kids' houses or go to work.
What was like? Was it pretty much like everyone else? Was it drinking at the houses? Was
not after school? I didn't really drink as much. I mean, I did, but not so much like young. I would. I mean, I know my mom's gonna probably listen to this, but like skip school, like in the morning stuff. So it was hard because like my dad lived in New Jersey. Actually, he might have lived in Bucks County at that time. He did live in Bucks County then, and then he ended up moving to New Jersey. And then my mom, she worked. So she worked at Temple for a long time. And then she had to work. So my parents were divorced, and my mom traveled sometimes. So she would, when my sister and I were 16 and 18, she would travel, and we would go to my dad's sometimes. But again, he lived like 45 minutes away, and that's a distance when you're that young. Yeah. I mean, you think. Now it's like nothing driving that far.
45, yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
I'm like driving from Yardley to here. But so what would end up happening is that we did have a lot of parties, my sister and I. So we did. And the first time I got punished a lot. So I was punished through a lot of high school.
Really?
Yeah.
For party?
Yeah. Because what happened, I think the one that we got in trouble for, 16. The one I got in trouble for is so my mom went away, and we used to make a joke that every October, like my mom somehow would, if she was out of town or whatever, I got in a car accident. And that has gone through. Like, my car insurance was like, this October, I'll finally be clear from like having an accident in October.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't have good luck in October, but we would have parties, and I remember having them like on the weekends and whatever, and my neighbors would knock on the door. But the one that I got in trouble for is that, do you remember someone's mom came?
Oh, wow.
So I had so many people at my house, and there weren't even people who I was like necessarily close friends with.
Yeah.
I mean, my close friends like in high school was like Elisa, Dovley, Chrissy, and Susie Mullet. They were my best friends, and they still are. So there's still people I talk to every other day. But I know they were there, of course. And I hung out at their house a lot. But Amy Taylor. Do you remember Amy Taylor? Her parents came. And I was like, oh. So people ran. And it ended up, my sister was there, but she was like upstairs in her room. And I ended up like running too. And then I came back. She called, like, I think I had like a flip phone. She called, she goes, where are you? I'm like, I'm hiding in the neighbor's house. She's like, you live here. Come home and deal with it. But yeah, then what happened is that like people, Joey Marciano was there, I think, and he might have cut up some of my parents' flowers.
Oh, nice.
I think, or I did.
And then the jig was up.
Yeah, no, because we tried to plant them again, and that didn't work. I got in trouble, but then when I was 16, I got punished until I was 18.
What does that entail? Being punished for 2 years? Like, you mean the whole time you were punished, or you just kept getting in trouble?
Well, I wasn't allowed to go out. Like, I was punished pretty much for a majority of the time. I was allowed to go to the Mullet's house. And I was allowed to go to Elisa's house. Like, I was allowed to spend time with Elisa, but I wasn't allowed out past like 10:30 at night. I had to go home. I had to get a job after school. So I babysat or worked.
Like during the week, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, for me, like that feels, I don't know. I remember being out with my friends on like a Sunday night until like 11 o'clock. My mom going like, where, like when I got home, she's like, where were you? And we were just driving around, but like that was like 11 o'clock was late. So for you to say like 10:30,
well, not
seems
even
like,
till, yeah. But I mean, that was like on a Friday, maybe.
Okay.
Like on a Saturday. So, but I wasn't allowed to, I could go to like Starbucks and I could go to like, but.
Did we have Starbucks back then?
Yeah.
Wow.
We did have a Starbucks. Yeah. So, and I was allowed to do that, but I was allowed to hang out with Elisa because her parents were strict as well. So, you know, she wasn't allowed to do as much stuff. So I could hang out with her. But my mom, like I couldn't talk on the phone. So my mom would like people would call the house and she'd come up to the door and she'd be like, Brianne's not allowed to talk to you right now.
Oh, no.
Sorry, she's in trouble.
You didn't have your own line?
No, never. I wasn't allowed to do any of that stuff. No. My mom was really strict. But I remember because our senior prom was on my 18th birthday. So that's the first time I was allowed to like go out like late.
Okay.
And I stayed. I was so excited because I was like, it's my birthday. And I got to go out to like, I think I was out to like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Who did you go to prom with?
Tristan Goodell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that prom? I guess it was prom. Yeah. I don't remember we went back. I think I went, I don't remember where I even went after that. I know a couple of the dances. We would go back to the Mullets' house a lot. The Mullets, I hung out at their house a lot. Mm-hmm. I was there a lot of the time. And their mom, their parents were good to me because my mom, when she had to travel for work and stuff, if she wasn't home, they would take care of me a lot. Same with Mrs. King, Cassie's mom. And I would stay there. Even when Cassie went to college, like I would go to her mom's house if my parents were out of town. Yeah. Like just to, even though like I was 18, or I wasn't 18 yet, but if I was 17, I still like would go there and stay there for Mrs. King, which is nice. She just passed away like 6 months, almost maybe 6 months ago. And oddly enough, Mr. Mullet did too, like last month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy because we're at that time where people's parents are getting older and that's happening. Seeing it. But it's neat because I had friends with great parents who were always there and helped out. So I was really fortunate.
So you said that your dad lived a bit away. So did you have like a relationship? I didn't. Once I got to like high school, my parents got divorced when I was in 8th grade, the end of 7th grade into 8th grade. So, and I saw my dad for like a little bit, but then as I really got into high school, I didn't see him at all. Like by the time I was probably in 11th grade, like not at all. And I would say probably, oddly enough, had more of a positive effect after a while, rather than the back and forth of, the divorce and all that. But did you have like a relationship with your dad through high school or? Yeah,
I did. I was very, so it's different now. I think it was different then. I think back when like you didn't do the back and forth, like your dad had you on weekends. And
I mean,
that kind of stuff.
No, my dad didn't have like dedicated,
custody.
I mean, it was like shared, but, I don't know why it was, I don't think my mom like took like official custody, but for some reason, I wouldn't spend like probably more than like a night or
Did he live in this town?
We stayed in Ambler. That's the funny thing.
He did too.
He stayed at the house till the day he died. Actually,
where's your mom?
And we stayed in Ambler. At
Did your parents live together?
No. I mean, when they were married, they did. But no, but then... Sorry, let me make this clear.
Yeah, I'm like, wait.
So when my parents got divorced and got separated at the end of 7th grade. We lived in Ambler, in South Ambler by the Ambler post office. And when they got divorced, my mom and I moved to Edgewood Apartments, like up on Bethlehem Pike.
Oh, okay. And your dad stayed
at the house.
In South Ambler.
Yeah, stayed at the house down there.
How was that moving out of your house?
Looking back, it didn't feel that weird. I mean, the whole thing was weird, I guess, but I think I was more concerned with like my dad's reaction to everything. And when you're a kid, you probably don't translate those feelings the same way. So I probably don't even know how I really, really, really felt, if I was like freaked out or not. But I don't remember being like, oh, I hate it here, or this is terrible,
or I have to leave my home.
Yeah, it wasn't like anything. It didn't feel like that. It just felt weird around people, like when I would come back home, or I would come back to the house, and then it's like, oh, who would I hang out with? It's like, well, I can hang out with the kids in the neighborhood like I used to, but I haven't seen them in like a month. So that, kids change.
Yeah.
And kids are so much like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long. And are we riding bikes? When you only have like this day to do stuff. Yeah. It's different versus like someone just knocking on your door randomly. Hey, we're going out. You're expecting people to like do stuff for your big return back home. Yeah. And I don't think that was the thing. So it became more of I'd have to make the effort to let people know I was home. Yeah. In the neighborhood with all the kids I grew up in. And that was probably a little harder. So I think I became I was always very independent because I'm an only child anyway, but I think I stopped coming down to where I grew up, and I would go down there to hang out with like Ray Campion lived down there. Yeah. So we grew up together, and my mom and his mom are best friends. And
that's awesome.
So, I would still go down there to hang out, but that started kind of becoming the only reason I would go down there would be to just go to his house after a while. It wasn't really to hang out. in the neighborhood anymore. And in an apartment, you don't really have neighbors.
Yeah. Did you feel bad not visiting your dad when you went down there to see Ray?
No, I felt more like scared or awkward. It became, after a while, it became more of a thing where I felt, my mom kind of like, I think brought it up to me when I was kind of going back and forth, but like I would see my dad and then we get into like some sort of an argument. And then my dad, I have this very similar trait where like when I lose trust or when I get angry about something, I need time sometimes to decompress and come back to the situation. But he was a little bit more stubborn in that he sometimes wouldn't come back to the situation. And so when we would get in arguments and fights, I wouldn't hear from him for a while. And then I think I would act out, but I didn't know that that's why I just had anger.
What year was your dad born?
Oh God, 41, 42, something like that.
Yeah.
I want to say 41.
41. So I think that plays a big part as like, well, my dad was born in the 50s, so he was born 53. My mom was born in 1945. So she was older than my dad. Yeah. But my mom's an extremely open person and really talks about her. Like, I mean, so are my sister and I. My father was raised, he was one of 7. And he was the 3rd child, and they were Irish Catholic, and the 7 of them were like 15 years apart. And, so they were, but talking about emotions and different things wasn't really something that they ever did. Now, more so the younger ones, like I have an Uncle Mark, my Aunt Rosemarie, they really talk about their feelings. I mean, they have no problem with that, I think, because they're younger. The older ones, I had a harder time because it was a different time. And I think that's the hard part. When you say like your dad, if you guys had a disagreement and then not discussing it, it's because this is not something we talk about. This is over. This is fine. We're good. And with my dad, I'm so fortunate. My dad never raises his voice. I've never once heard my dad yell. Okay. I've never seen my dad angry.
Very different from my family.
My mom heard one time, my mom tells us a story about how my dad was a businessman. So businessman, he did international business. He traveled all over the world. He's been to every state. I think he hasn't been to Alaska, but like my parents traveled all over the country. So my mom's been to every state. Like my dad's been everywhere except for Alaska. He's been to almost every country, every continent except for like Antarctica. So he traveled for weeks at a time. So he was always gone, but he, I don't know. It was just like he got to live a lot of life and do a lot of different things, and he never yelled. Now my mom's Italian, so everything she says is loud. So, but I grew up in a household with love, and every day my dad told me he loved me. And every time we end a conversation, he says it. And my mom does too. And my mom never learned how to tell anyone that she loved them until my mom, who was my dad's mom. Because I mean, she has 3 brothers and they just didn't say I love you all the time. But my mom, she always did. And my dad did. But now let me tell you, my dad is definitely like you don't necessarily see emotion coming out of him, but it was just something that he was taught, was to say that. So with that, the hard part was when my parents then told us they were getting divorced and my dad was leaving, because I never saw my parents fight before. And still I've never seen, I mean, my mom's yelled because my mom is loud. I think that's just her talking. Yeah. But, so that was hard. And I was 9 and I remember them telling us and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I actually remember them, like my mom crying. And I was like, oh my God, I bet you my parents are getting divorced. And that night they told us. And I just had something made up in my head. Like I didn't know that that's what it was. And my parents came in and told us and talked to us. And a couple months later, my dad moved out. But again, so because my dad is respectful of women, he's a good guy. He did not have like physical custody of us, I guess you could say. Shared custody, yeah. So my mom had full custody. Yeah. He would say, he's like, I could never take you from your mother. He would never do that. But since he traveled so much and since he lived farther away, I think I remember seeing him like once during the week, maybe like Wednesdays sometimes, but like it'd be Saturdays for a couple hours. Now, we didn't sleep over at my dad's house for the first year that he was gone, but then after that we did. But we've never really discussed. I mean, maybe more so now. Like there goes times like we'll discuss it and then we don't talk about it. and then we discuss it, and it's like I'm emotional about it, and then it's totally fine. But I think that I was really fortunate. My dad had a great job. We got to stay. My mom is very smart. They worked together to it's not easy when you go through that kind of stuff. Like, and also to stay in Bluebell. I mean, it's not like I lived in a 4-bedroom house, and I had like I lived on a quarter acre of land, and my mom was a single mom. So that's not something that people get.
Right.
Like I know how fortunate I was. I didn't know that my life was different. And my mom fought really hard for that. And my dad realized that, he had to take care of us. So I know he sacrificed stuff. My mom sacrificed a lot because she had to get a job. Like my mom loved to work. Don't get me wrong. She wanted to work, but she didn't want to go down to North Philly.
Yeah.
But, and she didn't want to leave us. I mean, my mom volunteered for everything. I had like a white picket fence. I had that like story tale, like house. Like that's how I grew up. So, and I never thought it was my fault my parents got divorced. I thought it was my parents' fault. So I also had this whole idea where I was like, I was like, okay. I ended up being okay.
Yeah, that's a good point of view.
But later in life, I realized that I didn't know as much then. And I was very fortunate to not know a lot of stuff. Because when you find out more stuff, and then being a parent myself, then it's gotten hard. More so as I've gotten like older, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
parents let shit go a little bit more and tell you stuff that you didn't know back then.
Yeah, and that was hard because I didn't realize. I mean, my dad wanted a different lifestyle, and that was like, who would want a different? Right. I'm amazing.
Yeah,
who would ever want a different lifestyle than to be around me all the time? Which was so that you kind of go back and forth. But I have a good relationship with my dad, and I have a stepmom, and I have a stepdad, which is actually funny because my mom married Dan Pantaleo, who was Sarah and Liz Pantaleo's, who is Sarah and Dan Pantaleo's dad. Liz is 2 years older than us, and Sarah was a year younger.
Okay.
So I went to high school with them. We went to high school with them in middle school, and they met at my sister's junior prom. Because Shotlin and Liz were friends. They went to prom, like in the same group. And my stepdad was there and my mom was there. And so then that's how they met. And it's funny because now they're married and they've been married for like 20 years.
Wow.
They got married in like 2000.
So yeah, like a mixed Wissahickon family.
Yeah, which was funny.
So did you guys all live in together?
Well, kind of. So Sarah lived with her mom. Shotlin moved out and went to college. Liz went to college a little bit, was home a little bit. I lived with Liz, but not for a while. Well, they didn't get married right away, but they lived in Bluebell. It's like Center Square, I guess, off of 73. But then they moved to Ambler after Anna's meet. They lived off of Tennis, but like further down Tennis, like in the, not in like the borough of Ambler, like further down. And then he sold his house, Dan, and then moved in with us.
Wow.
In the Bluebell house. And then when I went to college, my mom, they sold the house. And again, as like an 18, 19-year-old, I threw like a fit and like drew all over the walls and like had a temper tantrum and was like, "You'll never sell my home. This is where I grew up. I'm going to make it as difficult as possible." Because my room was like neon purple. And I like drew on the wall and they had to paint it white. And you could like, I was such a brat. I'm sorry. I feel bad for my mom. And Dan. My sister, I was so rebellious. Like, my sister was not as much. Like, I was. Like, I definitely skipped school. And, like, I definitely did a lot of those things in high school. But.
Yeah. Your face looks so dejected right now.
No, I love that house.
Oh.
But.
Yeah. I was at your house one time.
Did you come for a party?
It wasn't your party. It's so weird. I was at your house.
Was I there?
I don't think so. I was at your house for a cast party.
I was there.
You were there.
For Godspell.
Yeah.
I remember we had that. That was the house I grew up. That's so funny. I was not that type. I was not.
No, I know. And I remember my like
was.
anxiety about stuff like that. Like, I definitely think like, oh my God, I'm going to like this. Like, so one of the steady themes of the show is about how I didn't party. You know, I didn't go to parties at all. And so the only time I went to like parties really
we had one. I remember
was
it now.
cast parties for the musicals that I did for the first 3 years of high school. And Your house was the first one. Shotland threw it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking
that was like a regulated party. My mom was there.
Yes, right. And it was like a school thing. Yeah. And knowing that you were her sister, I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if Briannon's going to be there.
I was there somewhere, but honestly, I remember being at the door and Maureen, what was her girl, Maureen?
Wagner?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was there. And honestly, she taught me something that day, and she probably has no idea that she did, but I still do it to this day. To take makeup off, like eye makeup, she would put like Clinique lotion under her eye and like wipe it off to wipe off the makeup from the show. And I still do that.
She was a big like beautician type of.
Yeah, she like taught, and I don't know if she even knows that, but like that stands out in my head. But I remember that. But I was like, I think I went upstairs to my room and like hung out because they were Shotland's friends. I mean, I was friends with all of Shotland's friends, but I was like,
it was like not. I mean, I was ninth grade. So that was like 9 through 12.
Yeah.
That was,
which was like a big deal to have 12th graders.
That was my favorite year of the musical. And, I remember that party so well and just not like knowing what to do. And of course there was, and I didn't drink or anything. And so that wasn't like a.
Yeah. Well, my mom was not letting us.
Yeah. It wasn't that type of party. It was just, listening to like music and dancing.
I remember.
And there were people outside like smoking cigarettes.
On my
and
driveway,
I just remember
yeah.
Oh man, they're smoking cigs out there. Like, so, it's my only real, not only, I had a couple other cast parties, but like, it was like one of my few party atmospheres at your house.
I'm surprised you didn't come back to any other parties that we had, like
I wasn't,
non-parental parties.
So this
people
is
weren't
like
invited. I'm telling you, people just came.
Right. So that's a thing. And someone hit me up and said, it is incredible. After one of the podcast dropped, they said, it's incredible that people don't realize that not everyone drank. And there were just some. I
definitely drank at those parties.
There were some groups that just weren't. I was never involved in any type of social situation for anyone that you knew, for anyone that knew you enough to just come to your house. I didn't hang out with any of those. I really only hung out with like 5 people.
But I felt it's so weird though, because thinking back, like I felt like I mean, I'm awkward and I have anxiety. Like, I know everybody does. I mean, that's honestly like you can't be a human if you don't have nerves, right? So for people, I said hi to everyone in school. I still walk around like town and say hi to everybody just because I feel like, I don't know why. It's just the people look at me like I'm nuts. But so many people that I knew, but like wasn't necessarily friends. Like not like I would talk to them on the phone or hang out with them after school. People came to my house for those types of parties. And I didn't feel as weird then.
I think I had like fear. And this is what you see like in movies, I feel like a little bit when like the non-cool kid goes to someone's house and like I imagine record scratch. And,
do you think that people would have turned you away if you went into like someone's house? Yeah,
I feel like someone like I always felt like my persona, my reputation would garner what are you doing here? Who invited you? Who? Now I don't know because I never went to any of those parties, so I don't know if anyone cared. And if you're saying that just all these people went, but that was always, I think that was my, when I think back then of what would my fear be. One, I didn't know about them, so I hung out with.
Like I don't even know how people knew about it. Like I don't remember telling people.
This is before social media. People probably calling people, right?
Yeah,
and talking about it in school.
I had these parties. Like that's the thing. And
were they Friday nights, Saturday nights?
Yeah.
So you probably talk about them in class
and say, "Hey, my parents are away."
Right.
It was a lot of like my
and
parents
everyone
are away.
starts hearing, and they say, "Hey, let's,"
People were like, it was awful. They would take like my silverware outside, and like it was my mom found like spatulas in the backyard. Like that was something that I got in trouble for. Someone took like my ice maker out of my freezer.
See, I didn't start doing anything like that until college.
And then I didn't really drink as much. I mean, I smoked pot a lot more than I did. I drank. And my sister was straight edge. She did not drink at all until she was 21.
Wow.
And even in college, like, so not till 21. And she's the one who really told me about like drugs and alcohol and like that kind of stuff. Cause my mom, she might have talked to us about it, but I don't know. My parents were hippies.
What was that like growing up in like a woman's house? It sounds like it was like a woman, very much a woman's house.
Oh my God.
What was that? I was growing up, by the time I was in high school, I was growing up with my mom. So it was like boy and woman. And I was probably overexposed to a lot of women's issues and women's things. And so that was probably a little weird for me, but for you growing up and being the youngest
Yeah.
of the three. And
yeah. So I am very, because I was the youngest and my mom, I guess you could say I was like a princess, like a little, like I got a lot. My sister will always say that, but I think my sister's still the favorite. And I always say that too. But she, my mom was a very strong, independent woman, and we are always able to take care of ourselves, and we were never had to be quiet with our opinions or our ideas. And now appearances were very important in high school.
Yeah.
The way you look, and the way you look could get you more friends or more people to like you, more people to talk to you, and more confidence. Even though we had a good class, people still got bullied and picked on. I never really got bullied. I was tall, I was really thin, and I had blonde hair. I'm a stereotypical girl in high school.
I got to tell you, kudos for recognizing that.
Yeah. Well, because I grew up with a sister who had red hair.
Yeah.
She honestly she was very thin. So, but crazy, because now I would like have died to have that body.
Yeah.
But then people thought she was fat. And because she had, like, she was well endowed, I guess you could say. She was curvy. She had an hourglass figure.
She looked like an Instagram model.
She did, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was artistic and extremely opinionated and very talented. And because of that, she got bullied. And I remember I never talked to the people who bullied her. I mean, if they looked at me, I would tell them what I thought about them. But she never backed down. And that's something that my mom taught us. So to never let other people make you change who you are. And so I grew up in that house, like in that way. And even though my sister got bullied, she never like stopped smiling. And she was like, screw those people. Like, I was so fortunate to have such good role models, and like my mom and my sister. And my sister used to beat the living daylights out of me when I was a kid. And black eyes, bloody nose, like, I'm not saying she would like pound me, but like, I mean,
older sister shit.
Oh my God, she drew my face with Sharpie marker and put Vaseline in my hair. Like, she beat the crap out of me, but she still loved me and protected me and all that stuff. But the only person who picked on me in high school was probably my sister. Like, she would throw me into like a locker or something. But I mean, I was very fortunate in that sense, but I also knew that that's why I couldn't be friends with certain people, because if they treated someone, they might not have treated me like that, but if they treated someone else like that, there was no way I was going to be a part of it, because my sister was, and even though she was strong and she was affected by it, but even though like she was strong, I couldn't condone like making fun of people or not being friends with someone because they were different. I liked the new kids. I liked the different people. I liked people that were different because I felt like that was my life.
Different.
Yeah, we were different.
It's funny. I don't think I ever saw you like in that light. I don't think I didn't have the opportunity to, but I didn't see you as like, and I don't think I saw you as like closed-minded either, but I didn't see you. So I never got to see you open-minded in that way because our paths never crossed. Yeah. Really at all.
Well, and this is stereotypical. I mean, again, like I was a stereotypical high school girl. Like,
yeah. I kind of saw you as like one of the cool kids.
My God, I
but like,
was not.
you had parties. So this is one thing. Oh, yeah. So this is like something that I think I'm starting to realize is
that's so funny. You're right, though. I did have
parties. Not everyone, but a lot of people had, insecurities, hangups, thoughts of, I'm not cool. Yeah. But the outside perspective never, and this is the difference between being grown. Yeah. Like you said, like you can't imagine, why wouldn't I go to your party? Because there were tons of people that you didn't invite and didn't hang out with that would come to your party. But you at the same time didn't feel like you were one of the cool kids, yet you would have these parties that everyone would go to. Yeah. What I'm starting to realize, not no one, a lot of people never saw themselves in that way. And everyone was dealing with shit. Yeah. And because you're just young and you don't know necessarily how to talk about stuff or even talk to people that you have differences with. Yeah. You don't get to have that experience. Yeah. So I never had that experience to be able to get to know you in high school because I saw who you hung out with. Yeah. And I had in my head a vision of who you were, who your entire crew was, the girls that you hung out with. Yeah. And I know they don't want to talk to me.
But it's funny though, because
and that's not true.
No, it's not true. But it's interesting though,
That's
because I had a lot of confidence in high school. I can tell you, I had so much more confidence. I'm like the opposite of like normal people. I had so much confidence in high school. I mean, the only thing I was not confident, I thought like I was, thin, and people did pick on me for that because
People picked on you because you were thin?
Yeah.
Really?
Little bit. I think that's probably the only time. I mean, I was never bullied really, but like that. And maybe it's because people picked on my sister for being like what they thought was big at that time, which is ridiculous.
She wasn't big. She just had she had big boobs. Huge boobs.
And let me tell you, like huge. And I think she was in 3rd grade with like ginormous boobs. So growing up like that, boys used to snap her bra strap. Like I could have.
I think that's a common.
And you know what?
I think that's a normal.
That's not normal now.
Not now.
But
not
then,
now.
But like to be first of all, well, no guy should ever pick on you for having big boobs. They should just appreciate it.
But that was the thing. That's what you in the 80s and 90s. If you look at TV shows and movies and the girl with the big boobs and
and it was like, you know what, like and that just wasn't something that everybody had. And because she had an hourglass figure anyway. But my I mean, I'm obviously not the same I was in high school, but that I don't know if I got picked on by her or by other people, but I had anxiety in high school, and it was severe. So how I deal with my anxiety is I talk more. So I was always outgoing and always bubbly and always like bouncing around and going places. But I did spend a lot of time. The guidance counselors were like my best friends. The school psychologist, I sat in her office a lot.
What's a school psychologist?
Yeah. Well, you guys probably, certain people probably didn't meet her. So she had an office in their high school in Wissahickon, and I can't remember, like, it was on like the 2nd floor, and she had an office, and it was like, you walked in and you might think it was like a bare room, but it had carpets and like a table and a couch and a desk, and it was like huge. And I would go in there and like lay on the couch a lot. And I spent a lot of time with her. Like I skipped class. Not skip class. I would have to leave class. I had a cell phone. So like I would leave class and like call my mom from the bathroom. And like I wouldn't get
about your anxiety.
Oh my God, yeah. And I wouldn't like ride a school bus because I didn't like the feeling of being trapped on the school bus. So like my mom, she really sometimes I'd drive from Temple to come pick me up.
Was this sparked by was the anxiety about anything specific or sparked by a specific class
Well, I had it like since I was like a kid, like 5 years old. 3 years old. I mean, I had anxiety as like a toddler. But it got worse in 6th grade. So as I said, like my parents were divorced. My dad we thought he was in Florida. I guess he was like in St. Martin, and there was a hurricane. And it was 6th grade. So I don't even know. It was the 90s, right?
95.
Yeah.
Like
so it was a huge one. It was category 5. And my dad was there and my stepmom was there. And my dad had to evacuate where he was. They couldn't get him off the island, and he stayed in a house. So we got like emergency phone calls, like Red Cross, like breakthrough. My mom was like on the phone, and like my dad was able to get a call to my uncle. He called my mom. And then like the Red Cross had to go, and a lot of people died. So it was a pretty severe thing. And that really sparked something for me in middle school. And I was like afraid to go to school. But I mean, I had to go eventually. So I would go and then spend a lot of time with like the guidance counselors and stuff. I don't think it was obvious that I wasn't in class. So I don't think, and the teachers were pretty aware. But again, anxiety was not something to the level that I had it at that time was not something that people were aware of or accepting of. So my mother had to do a lot of work. And it was, I mean, doctors, and she got me to do all this stuff. And she was, facing a battle where people were like, oh, they're just nervous. Like, get over it. And she fought really hard to, get it figured out. And she still does. She still deals with it with me. And I'm very lucky that she like didn't just blow me off, like knew what
get
she
your shit together.
Yeah, she wasn't like get over it, go to school,
Yeah.
get over it. Like if I wouldn't eat in the morning, she was like, you can't go to school until I can get you to eat. And eating was a big thing. So in high school was less, maybe a Nutri-Grain bar. I would like legit eat like a vitamin and be like, I ate. So I didn't eat a lot in high school. Not because I ever thought I was overweight, but like it was because I had like a fear if I eat, then my I'll be anxious. My
Yeah,
stomach will hurt,
when I
I'll
have
get
like
sick.
big things happening, still to this day, when I have like anxiety or I have a big decision or I know I have to talk about something a couple hours later, and like people, I can't eat like breakfast or lunch. I just say, nah, I'd rather just get it all done first and then eat later. Celebratory or
right.
face shoving for depression.
Yes. No, and that's how I am. And it's like I obviously don't have a hard time eating as much now, or drinking. But I did then. So that was like a hard thing. And I remember I was like 85 pounds, like in high school. So, I mean, that's small when I'm 5'7", you know? So I really suffered from a lot of stuff, but got better. I mean, I'm much better now. There's different things to do. You know, I'm older and that's good. But, you know, so that was something I dealt with a lot in high school. But there was a school psychologist and she was awesome. I can't remember her name though.
That's not funny, but that's interesting because, you know, when I think about, I have memories of kids going to like the psychologist or the nurse or the guidance counselor.
Oh, I hung out
like,
in the nurse's office. I used to eat lunch there.
Yeah, like leaving. Like I have memories, and you're not one of those people that
because
have memories of that happening, or even really like having like a hard, have any type of like issues or So that's interesting that you were dealing with that stuff in high school. And
well, it's funny because it wasn't because like I said, I had so much. It wasn't because I thought there was anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
So it's because I had a lot of. I like had friends. I felt confident. I felt good about like the way I looked. I guess my appearance.
Yeah.
But it was
that's funny.
It's so funny.
That's really
because
funny.
that's totally not how it is. Like so many people feel so like. I mean, sometimes I wished I had like was a little bit bigger. Like I had some like more weight on me and stuff. But like I never felt like bad about how I looked. I was like, I always thought I looked great.
That's so funny.
It's so opposite now. It's so funny how like in the society, but I didn't not eat because I thought I was fat. I didn't eat because I was nervous. Yeah. And so it's like so weird, and I thought food was gonna hurt me. Like, what if I eat this food? Is it expired? Is it like cooked all the way? I still am like that. Like every time if you see me eat, like I cut my food, I look at it, and then I put it in my mouth because I have to make sure I check it's like OCD.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like a little OCD-ish.
But
like worrying about unrealistic fears.
Yeah, it's irrational, and I know I'm irrational. But I also know that I masked my anxiety with being really bubbly and happy and excited.
A lot of people that deal with mental issues like that.
Yeah, and so that's what like no one ever would have known. Probably, I mean, people didn't know I had anxiety or all these things because I was always like upbeat.
Yeah, we hear about all these public figures that deal with depression. And
yeah,
like there's the guy from SNL, Pete. God, he dated Ariana Grande last year.
Oh yes,
engaged to. Like he's always talking about he's got like issues and
he's bipolar, I think.
Yeah, maybe
bipolar. Yeah, he's bipolar. But by being bipolar is something that that's manic. That
depression, but you hear about just these comedians, Robin Williams, the guy from the Travel Channel that committed suicide. Anthony Bourdain. You just hear about these outrageous personalities that everyone else is extremely entertained by, and then you realize that in reality they had shit that they were dealing with. Not saying that you're dealing with depression or that you're suicidal.
But I mean, I have dealt with depression, and you're
dealing with shit,
and with high highs come really low lows, and. I have to say, like, Chrissy, Suzie, and Elisa have been huge, like, support system. Because, I mean, I've gone through a hard time. Like, we all have. Mm-hmm. I have 3 kids. I don't live with their father anymore. We were married for 10 years. Like, I met him in college. I had a kid 9 months after I graduated from... Well, I got pregnant 9 months after college. Okay. So, I mean, like, it was tough. I wasn't married when I got pregnant. I got married afterwards and that kind of stuff. And then going through separation, and that stuff sucks because like you just feel there's no control in it. And having those girlfriends, like I am so lucky, and my mom and my sister and my dad was helpful. Like, and my stepmom, like my stepdad, God, I'm so lucky. Like, and I talk so much. So people always know when I'm upset. Because I'll be like, I feel really sad and depressed right now. Well, why? Well, because this and this happened. And they're like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to lay in my bed all day and cry about it. And they're like, no, we're going to get up. And I'm like, no, I'm going to lay in bed. So one time I decided that, and Chrissy came and laid in bed. She's like, well, I'm coming then.
Wow.
So Chrissy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to get up and go out. I'm going to lay in bed and sulk all day. But so I tell them, you know, I'm just very honest about my sadness.
I'm the same way. Like, you know, I try to be honest about stuff. I think years ago there was such a stigma.
You hit it,
about
right?
mental health and anxiety and depression and just dealing with stuff. And I keep saying on all these podcasts, I keep saying that if I feel a certain way, the thing that helps me is realizing that it's not irregular and someone else probably has a very similar feeling. Someone else is thinking it. And the more I do these podcasts, the more I kind of see that. Or as these podcasts come out and I say that on the podcast, people are like, dude, I feel the same exact way. It's exactly how I used to feel.
But it's crazy because we live in a world with social media where everyone and everything is okay. And I know a lot of times people come out there and they say, my life is awful. It's hard. And then it's so hard sometimes to identify with that stuff. And people don't, you have to say either, like my thing now is like social media is like, if people, like they can love someone or they can feel really great and you want to shout it from the rooftops. But when things are bad, they don't want to start saying that stuff because the negativity is really hard to push on other people.
Mm-hmm. No one wants, and other people are dealing with their own. They just don't put it on there.
And they don't.
So it's like, oh God,
so
I don't
it's
want
like
to be depressed.
Yeah, either be like real quiet. So I like talk about my kids on social media and like weddings, friends, fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like I try not to say the sad things, but I also want people to know that life, like my son, my son, he's 8. He's chronically ill. Mm-hmm. He's an amazing kid. He's happy. He's like olive complected. So he always doesn't ever look sick, but he has, and it's as simple as he has severe asthma and allergies. It's severe. He has been sick since he was like 6 months old. And we've been to countless doctors and hospitals and done so many different things to try and get him to be managed. And you know, today he is. Tomorrow he might not be, but he goes to school and I worked hard. She's had more shots than I could even, so many allergy shots, so many immunizations, so many things that he's done. And that adds to my anxiety. But like now I try not, like people know that he's sick, you know, and know that he has like immune deficiency, like issues and stuff. But like right now, I was thinking the other day, it's like RSV season and flu season. And people who talk about like vaccinations. His father doesn't have a spleen. So his father's name is Adam. I call my son's name's Adam. I call him Ace, but he doesn't have a spleen. So if he gets sick, he doesn't house white blood cells. So 100-degree fever for us is 104, 105 for both of them. Severe illnesses, right? So when the whole vaccine things and RSV season and people like flu shots, who people don't want to get the flu shots. I'm like, do you understand? Like, someone not getting a flu shot could kill my son. So that, and his father. Right. So that to me is like, but I try not to get too much on social media because I honestly could write like 45 pages of how I feel about it.
Right.
But it's my sob story. I mean, like, is my story going to change anyone else's opinion? So it's hard sometimes to like, it might, and they might understand, but it's like, and like the whole vaping thing now, like if I see someone vaping now, I have like the biggest problem.
You hate vaping.
It's like, cause you're putting oil into your lungs. It's like, it's awful. And I just asked them, have you ever seen someone who hasn't been able to breathe? Everyone says yes. I'm like, well, has it ever been your child? And so I've seen him where he hasn't been able to breathe. And this summer, the bottom parts of his lungs closed. He wasn't wheezing because he couldn't pass air through his lungs. He was on more medications than I have charts in my house. Like, it's crazy. The stuff that every 4 hours he was on medication in the middle of the night, all this stuff. He had to stop swimming. He had to stop doing all this stuff. And all I want is like, so it's hard because I don't necessarily know how to say like that on social media, you know? So but I want to celebrate him on his birthday because I can say, this is my favorite guy. Happy birthday. You turned 8. Like, how do you say, if you don't get your flu shot, my son might die, so don't come over to my house.
I mean, there's ways you could blog.
Yeah, and that's like stuff that I've thought about because I'm like, you know,
for the cause.
Yeah,
you know, and you'll get a much smaller, probably base of people, but you'll get people that actually care about reading about it, and you'll probably hear a little bit from people who have similar situations. I don't know. That's a tough thing.
And that's the hard part. It's like hard to. So I understand why people say all these positive things, because it's so much easier to say positive things than it is to. And when stuff's negative, it's hard to find the right places in your mind to make the right words to get the point across to the masses.
I have issues. I go through stuff like that a lot. Like when the hurricane happened in Puerto Rico, I went through almost like a fucking depression. I just couldn't believe that like Puerto Rico was being decimated, and I didn't have the power to do anything, and no one was doing anything. And I was like just losing my mind. I found myself just like reading about it and wanting to post about it all the time. And it was just like, I didn't want to depress people, and I didn't want people to start blocking me.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you just, in the end, I ended up signing up to go out there for like humanitarian effort. They never called me, but like in that moment when I just felt like so sad about it and so helpless, I don't know. That helped me a little bit, but there's, I find there's tactical ways to help yourself through it, even if it doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
For you in that moment when you feel like you want to express it in some way, there are sometimes things that you can do. In that way,
it's just hard sometimes trying to find the right words and the right thing. And, and then that I have 2 other kids, too, that are they're seemingly normal. One's a tween, she's going to be 12 and the other one's
looks
9,
just like you, by the way.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
And do you know what? She's like 5'2".
Wow.
And she wears like a size 8 shoe.
It is like you then.
Yeah,
I don't know your shoe sizes, but you were tall.
But like it's crazy because their dad's 5'7", so it's not like Adam's that tall. Yeah. And now I'm gonna have, but it's so funny because she's 11-year-old. She's like a foot taller than the other 2.
Wow.
And they're 2 years apart. It's just so funny. But Ava, she's tall and she looks like me, which is so weird to look back and like see that.
Yeah.
But then, I want to give them the attention that they need too. It's hard. You have 3 kids. It's hard to figure out. I mean, it's like hard to know what to do with all of them.
Yeah.
To make sure they all get the right amount of time.
Yeah. To grow.
Well, and to let them make decisions. Like I'm fortunate. I don't yell in my house either. I did used to yell a lot, but we squashed that. So I haven't yelled in like years. But it's like I try and I'm like, well, all right. Ava right now, all my kids have curly hair, which, I mean, my hair's wavy sometimes, but like, it's not like, but Ava right now just wants to brush out her curls. So I'm like, all right, if you want to have like a big puff, it's fine. It's very hard for me, but I'm letting you do your own thing. And if you want to wear oversized sweatshirts and stuff that doesn't fit you, okay. Like, it's like interesting because it's like, you just have to let them do their own thing, but try and give them their own space.
You said looks were very important. Appearances were important in high school. What was that like for you as a girl? I'm always very interested in like girl perspectives. I was a horrible dresser in high school, and like just being presentable. Like I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing, but you always kind of had your shit together.
Well, it's interesting because if you saw I have to show you a picture of me when I was like in elementary school. I have a picture. So I had like a bowl cut because I went to Hawaii, and my mom cut my hair because she wanted me to get sand in our hair. And I have a picture of me going to school wearing like a tie-dye MC Hammer pants and like penny loafers. My sister has posted pictures on social media of me like this. But so I mean that wasn't my best moment, but my mom pretty much let us do what we wanted. My father is very stylish. He's very put together. He's very professional. His lounge clothes is like Lululemon, and
I don't even know what that means.
Oh my god, his sweatpants. I can't even call them sweatpants. His lounge clothes are like $100 for a pair of pants.
Oh,
like,
Jesus.
Not saying that. Like that's just an example as like the brand. So my father and again, he went to Temple and he loves the Eagles and my dad's a huge Philadelphia sports fan. So some stuff he does wear, but like, and I have Temple shirts. Like I have a Temple shirt from like 1970 because from my dad that he's given to me. Yeah. But like his collar's always up. he always had a golf shirt on. My dad wore suits every day. So my dad for Christmas and my stepmom for like holidays and stuff would take us shopping. So my dad, I always wore like dress pants. Like I was always dressed up. And my dad lived in London for a time period for like a year when I was in 7th grade. So I flew out there when I was 7th grade. With my sister, we flew out alone. And he took us shopping and like I had a leather jacket and I felt so cool. And I had Doc Martens, which I thought was so cool, but it's because my dad is the best shopper. He's good for a bargain too. He can find stuff at like TJ Maxx or Marshall's. And so we were always put together. And whenever I would wear, I remember I had like neon yellow pants and he was like, the hell happened to you? What? I can hear your pants all the way down here. Like, why are your pants so loud, this color? So my dad was really into that. I would say like fashion, I guess, and appearance, like that kind of appearance. So it seemed like I always had my stuff together.
Was it like I don't know, was it a competition in high school or? You always hear just like about how some people nowadays, I think, say like when you talk about like Catholic schools or private schools, they wish they had uniforms back then. And
I never felt that. I had a unique style, I feel, but I liked like plaid pants. I had pants that were like plaid pants. Like my sisters always stood out. She had red hair. She was loud. Her name's Shotlin. My name's Briannon. It was a unique name at that time. And so I like to stand out too. So I like to stand out. And so I would wear different clothes. Again, like I grew up in like we had money growing up. So I shopped at Gap and like BB and like all those like high-end stores. Yeah. Oh my God. Like my prom dresses were expensive and my mom worked her butt off. And so did my dad to make it seem like we never went without. That's what I've always said. I've never went without. But I still had to work, like my parents still made me work at 15. I had to buy my sister had to buy a car from my dad. I had to buy the car from my sister. So like we had to pay for stuff, but I never went without things like
your basics you had.
Yeah. Like I had that and food and always had everything that we could possibly need. So, and my parents worked hard for it and we knew they did. So, so I never felt like there was a competition because I always felt, again, I was confident in high school.
And you had the top stuff that you wanted. And,
and like my prom dresses, I had to get like specialty. I went to, Nicole Miller was like a designer in Chestnut Hill. She's a designer, I guess. Okay. And I went to her store in like Chestnut Hill and I had to have like a dress like specially like made. I felt like so cool. I was like, we went there and my mom like, and it's so funny because again, I was not like a rich kid. I had a single mom. But she worked her butt off. And because I was really thin and she didn't want me to look like I was wearing a paper bag, she like worked hard to make sure that I like had whatever I wanted. And I had a long torso, so I had to wear like a 2-piece. All of my dresses, everything. Like if you look back at my pictures from all my dances, they're like 2 pieces. Because I couldn't.
You had a long torso.
Yeah, long torso and I was 5'7". So apparently that was tall, like and awkward and lanky.
Okay.
And some of the stuff I don't even know why my mom let me wear. Like one was like a semi-formal. It was like a triangle. It had like no back. It was just tied. And that one I went with Evan Wallace.
Yeah.
I went with him to.
Well, he was like 6'5", so that worked.
Yeah. Well, he was definitely taller than me.
Yeah.
But I remember, and I have a picture of us together at that dance.
Did you date like in high school?
No. I think my only boyfriend was like Jeff Pan.
Who
ended up being like my best friend.
Wow.
I haven't talked to him since like college, like early college. He came, he went a different path, like, and he and I had, I guess, butted heads a little bit at that point. But I think he was like my only boyfriend, but I don't even know if we ever kissed or anything. It's kind of like a free spirit throughout that kind of stuff. People didn't ask me out either.
Really?
Yeah, no. I think I had a boyfriend in like 6th grade. I'm telling my daughter that now.
Your friends all kind of like had.
Yes. Chrissy and Susie were perpetual daters.
Yeah.
And well, I wouldn't say big daters. They were relationship people.
Yes.
And I remember their boyfriends. Like I know Chrissy dated Justin. Was it Chrissy dated Justin Hammond?
They both did.
Did you ever hear that story? Did they
just
tell you? The old switcheroo.
Yeah.
Did she tell you?
Do you have a better version? I just heard.
I was there.
I heard the basics that just that it happened, but
I was there.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was standing there in the room.
There was. I didn't know it was like a thing.
Oh, we were at Kyle Speace's house.
Oh.
So Suzie was dating Kyle Speace,
Mm-hmm.
and Chrissy was dating Justin Hammond. And really, if you look at it at that time, it really did make more sense just knowing the twins because they were nothing alike one another. But Justin should have dated Suzie and Kyle should have dated Chrissy. It just their personalities and their just
I can't believe you just
aligned.
said that. It made sense if you look at the twins.
Yeah, I mean, so we were sitting there, and then it's like they had this conversation. The boys had this conversation, and then they decided this is what they were going to do, and they like came out and told us. And now, mind you. These 4 people are in a relationship, and I'm the 5th person there.
Yeah, it's
and I'm
very
standing there like a commentator, and I was like looking back and forth, and I was like, "Wait, you're saying this about this? Wait, you want to do what's this?" And I'm like, "Wait, hold up, what's happening here?" And it was like when they said it was like they had the best idea ever. It was like the guy like this is the best idea ever.
It sounds like a great idea. Let's
know,
just switch off. Let's just switch the twins.
Just like
That never works on TV. So that's how they did. They just talked about it and they switched.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the people
I think it worked for a little bit. I can't remember.
The funniest thing about all that is that both of them married high school sweethearts, not the mullets.
Oh, I was like, Chrissy and Suzie didn't.
No. The guys both married high school sweethearts.
How funny is that?
That's
so they just had to get over it. Yes, which is, I think that's pretty awesome too. But this was like in 9th grade.
Yeah.
It was early on before they dated these other girls. But, and can I tell you the funniest part is that I had the biggest crush on Kyle Speace.
Really?
In like 3rd grade, 4th grade. I remember because we went and I was like, I thought he was so cute.
Did that carry on?
No. I mean, not like as I got older because my friends dated him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like who I liked in high school.
Someone was here. I'm trying not to say names anymore.
Yeah, don't say names.
I don't want to blow it for anyone as a surprise of who the guest will be.
I like the surprise.
But someone was here, and they were going through the old Shady Grove yearbook. I have a heart, over some different girls, and I go, really? Her? Like, no disrespect. I just don't remember carrying that person into like middle school, high school, and I'm like. Really? I was sweating her in 5th grade or 4th grade. Like,
I remember who I had a crush. Now I remember. Johnny Manzer I had a crush on too when I was little. In 1st grade.
Did you?
I had crushes early on in life, by the way.
Well, you said no one asked you out in high school. Did you have crushes in high school?
Yes. Pete Whitaker's older brother,
JC.
Grant. No, Grant.
Oh, I don't know him.
He was the middle one. I had a huge
I didn't
crush
know there was
on
a
him.
middle one.
Yeah. So JC.
The Whitakers are good looking guys.
They are. And JC scared the crap.
Stock.
Yes. JC scared me. And let me tell you, I guess
he was Jesus Christ.
He was. Do you remember me?
At the cast party was at your house. He was Jesus Christ in Godspell.
He was. And we were like, JC, and he's Jesus Christ. And we thought it was so cool.
He was such a cool guy.
They pulled me up on stage for that. Did you? So, you know, they pulled people up on stage for that and Godspell.
For Godspell?
Yeah, they pulled some people up on stage. Was it Godspell? I don't know. It has to have been. It was one of the plays.
Okay.
My sister pulled me up on stage, and I was like, "Oh, I'm standing near JC Whitaker." I like didn't know what to do.
Oh yeah.
But he was a year older than my sister.
Okay.
So he was like 3 years older. But I had a huge crush on Grant. I remember that. I don't think he even knew who I was, but he did write in my yearbook.
So after high school, you went on to college. You went to Bloomsburg.
Yeah,
right?
I went to Bloomsburg. Yeah.
What did you want to do did you know what you wanted to do through high school?
No.
Did you have any clue?
No.
Why Bloomsburg?
I never had something that I was good at. I didn't play a lot of sports later in high school. I wasn't like a great student. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And fortunately, Dan, my stepdad, he has a PhD in chemistry, but he was a teacher. So he has been a dean, vice president of universities. He worked for SAP at that time, but he always told me, like, no matter where you want to go, you're going to go to school and you will find something that you like. And all of my parents were very for me to go to school. I ended up going to Bloomsburg. He was a dean at Bloomsburg back in the 70s and the vice president of the school. So it kind of helped because he was like, this might be something that you would want to do. I went to school, and then after my sophomore year, I got like a notice saying you have to pick a major because I didn't pick one, and if you don't pick a major, you can't come back. So I was like, well, so I picked humanities. This is my major, which my stepdad incidentally created that major in the school in like 1975, and here in the 2000s, that's where I am. Yeah. So in college, I was a summer freshman. I went like 2 weeks after high school graduation. I went to college, and
like early admission. Like
it's because I wasn't a good student. So in order for me to get
like
in,
a 6-week summer course type of thing.
Okay, I feel like it was the whole summer.
I know, like
August.
Penn State. 6 weeks. Yeah,
I went with Chrissy Benedict, and I think Tom Scuderi was there then. I went to school with so many people from Wisconsin.
Shout out to Tom. Tom's one of the, when I see that Illinois is listening to the podcast, I know it's Tom.
Tom, yeah.
So
and then
thanks,
like
Tom.
Joe Brown. Did he go to
Joey Brown?
Yeah. And Tom Scuderi's older brother, Joe, he went to school there too. So that was kind of cool though, because, we knew people. We felt so cool.
Yeah.
He was older. But when I went up there in the summer, I was there in the summer. I came home in the fall. I went to Montco in the fall. I got into a car accident that October because it was October, and that's what I do.
That's what you do.
And then went back up in the spring. So I lived up and I went there, and then I was there, and I had like an apartment. Then after, and I pledged a sorority. I was in a sorority up there. I was the vice president of the sorority. I was always involved in that. My sorority was like very open-minded. But in college, so I decided I picked a humanities major, so I was that, and I took every possible class you could take except for math. I took one like statistics class. That was it. And then, but I took backpacking and orienteering. That one was hard. Okay. My final project was I had to take a compass, a topographical map, a 60-pound backpack, and go out into the woods at a park called World's End. And we went with a compass, and 13 miles, 2 days later, we came back.
Wow.
And yeah, I drank water out of a river with iodine tablets. I thought I was going to die. I was the only girl.
This is like Naked and Afraid.
Oh my God, it was. And I slept underneath a tarp. It was snowing because it was April in Bloomsburg. It snowed. I slept underneath a tarp with my boots on. And my boots were like red and had fur on them with snowflake prints on the bottom. Because I went to Walmart right before we left to buy stuff, and these guys had made a campfire, and like made fire with sticks, and I like had a cup of noodles that I was eating without like water in it because I was just eating like the raw noodles and cracker, and I had peanut butter crackers. We had to hang a bear bag. There were bears. It was awful. So then I took running class, jogging.
You really didn't know what you were.
No, I took golf. I did great in the golf class.
Yeah, you were a golfer already.
I did. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And the only reason I didn't play golf in high school is because I hated that teacher. Middle school. What was our middle school teacher?
Schweighauser.
I thought he was the biggest pervert I've ever met in my life. And maybe that's inappropriate to say out loud.
No, I think at this point, a lot of people have brought him up. A few people have brought him up. And I feel like, he probably was a really nice guy. Listen, he's got, I don't really know how to handle this on the podcast. There are a few teachers, Sabia, Goldberg, Milio.
Okay, first of all, let me just tell you, Mr. Milio, I loved him. I had a crush on him. And now knowing what he's done and what's happened.
Ironic.
It is. And it blows my mind. And Mr.
Sabia?
Wait, Mr. Sabia?
Yeah.
Which one?
The one that people did like Michael. No one liked Warren because
I liked Warren.
He was algebra.
He was great. I remember one time
I liked him because he got me good at math.
Wait. Who was the older school teacher?
Do what?
Who was the twins?
Yeah,
one was
they were the twins.
Yeah, but they both taught ninth grade.
Sabia probably taught 10th. Mike probably taught 10th.
So Warren was great. One day I was so sick in his class, I had a stuffy nose, and he made us take those time tests with 100 problems on them. I was like, I was so congested. He came over and brought me a whole box of tissues, and then I thought he was the best guy in the world. But
he was good at me because
he was the one who wore the blue leisure suit. Remember our color day?
Oh, that was probably Michael.
Warren. Maybe it was Warren.
I can't remember. Michael had like a little bit of a bigger face, a little bit of a fatter face, but
the reason why I'm asking so much is because he tutored my sister. My husband Michael.
Yeah.
He came to my house a lot.
Wow.
And sat at my kitchen table. So if this is something, I mean, not like my sister's never mentioned it before.
I am 98% sure it was Michael because I remember thinking that a lot of people
he's the older
didn't
one.
like.
That's why, because my sister was horrible in math. Yes. So the younger one I remember was Warren.
You mean like by minutes? They're twins.
Younger grade. 9th grade and 10th grade.
Warren was the younger grade.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
That's the one that she had.
No, I think Michael came and tutored her.
So yeah, I believe that Michael was the one because I thought how weird was that he was my homeroom teacher in 9th grade, and Michael was, but I had Warren for math.
Okay, so Warren was my home because I was McQuade.
Yeah.
So I remember Brad McGoldrick was in my class.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the mix.
The other Brad.
The other Brad.
Chris McQuade. Are you related to Chris McQuade in any way? Will you clear this up?
Never once.
Is Melissa McQuade
his cousin?
They are cousins.
So Melissa McQuade and Chris McQuade are cousins.
And Mrs. McQuade
was Chris's mom. Well, I don't know. Who was the substitute? Was that Chris's mom?
Yep, Mrs. McQuade.
Wait, can I tell you the funny part? Is that when I was in elementary school, she was my substitute teacher one time. And I did not understand how she had the same name as me because it did not make sense.
Yeah, that's compute.
And I went home and told my mom, and my mom's like, she's not me. And I was like, okay. And she told me something. Anyway, so I remember going outside to recess, and I didn't even know Chris McQuade then because he went to Shady Grove, I think, or Bluebell, or I don't know, somewhere else. And I didn't know who he was. Yeah. And I went up to her and I said, my mom told me you're not the real Mrs. McQuade. And I think I was like,
please stand up.
Yes, right. I think I was like in 2nd grade, and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Never mind."
You ain't her. Everyone liked Mrs. McQuade.
She was so nice.
Yeah, everyone liked her as a substitute teacher. She was a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the schools.
Yeah, I remember her in elementary school. We had her.
That's funny because I was in Shady Grove, so I used to get her in my school.
So she was in the school district. Yeah, so we all have a common bond.
Yeah.
In college, so I was in a sorority. I lived in Bloomsburg. I was there for 5 years. So I graduated in 2006.
Yeah, me too.
And my second senior year, my stepdad was also like really good with job, like counseling, like I should say, so he was always really helpful with that. And he was like, you're good with people. That's something I think that you should get into, like hospitality, right? So, but Bloomsburg at that time didn't have a hospitality major. So East Stroudsburg did, could sound like other places did, but I was at Bloomsburg. So he knew people in like the School of Communications. Now, being a humanities major, I was in the School of Philosophy. So I did take a lot of like critical thinking and philosophy classes and
I like stuff
logic.
Like that.
Oh, it was great. I think that kind of stuff prepared me for the real world more than you could ever imagine. Because having logic and critical thinking skills and different literature classes have prepared me to be able to understand patience, understand people, be more open-minded, to be understanding. And that was extremely important. And it is extremely important now to live in this world. I can tell you people who do not have that training. And I say to my mom, I'm like, listen, if I work with like, not even people I work with, but like people in general, if they don't have that, if they're missing that trait, it's a serious disadvantage. So if college gave me anything, it certainly gave me that. But he was like, well, why don't you try and make like he like helped me develop an internship because I only need like 6 credits left my like second senior year. So I went to the School of Communications, developed an internship. I worked at a little country inn for 6 weeks every day, like every single day, Saturday, Sunday, every day. And I learned how to do innkeeping, bookkeeping, bartending, waitressing, everything, housekeeping. I learned how to clean every single room. I learned how to do everything.
At
Bloomsburg. And it was he told me to try it. I went to the head of the communications department, who was someone who he knew. I pitched the idea to him. He thought it was a good idea. He said he would take me on because it wouldn't be with my actual advisor. And then I went to it was called the Inn at Turkey Hill. The guy's name was Andrew. And I went to him. I asked him if I could do it. And he said, yeah, because he didn't have to pay me.
Yeah.
And so I did it. But it was great because I also babysat his kids, which I was totally fine with. He was going through a divorce at the time. I love his ex-wife, him. It was just a wonderful place. And I worked with great people. It was extreme fine dining. It was very fine dining. And it was Bloomsburg. So that's not common. People People having teeth wasn't common. And so
Very
at that
grassy.
time, well, it's the only town in Pennsylvania, if you didn't know that.
What do you mean? What is the only town in Pennsylvania?
Bloomsburg is the only town in Pennsylvania.
What do you mean? Why are you putting a period at the end of that?
Because it's the only town in Pennsylvania.
What do you mean? Town?
I mean, I'm like,
what do you mean only town?
So it's technically the only
like registered town?
Yes, place that's like governed.
Classification of a town?
Governed as like a town.
What is everything else? A borough or a
city
or a
borough,
municipality?
A valley, a township.
Really?
Borough. Yeah.
So like Ambler is a borough.
It's a borough.
Bluebell is a what?
It's not a town. I don't know.
What about Whitpain Township?
Whitpain Township.
It's a township is different than a town?
Yes. Like my
You're
mom.
You're blowing my mind right now.
So a county. Like nothing else is.
Right. Counties are bigger. Montgomery County, Bucks County.
Right. So like my mom lived in. So say like. It's all based off like your post office, I guess, too.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what Bluebell was. It used to be called Pigeon Town, in case you didn't know that.
Yep.
So Pigeon Town, we had a sign, and it was Bluebell. But no, I don't actually know. But if you drive into Bloomsburg, it says it's the only town in Pennsylvania on a huge sigg as you drive into it. But it is.
I want to challenge them on that. I want to look into this.
Oh, Google.
We're gonna.
I've Googled it many times and shown people. All my fellow Bloomsburgians. Well,
not now, but I'm gonna build a case.
That sounds good.
I'm going to build a case and I'm going to present
I was registered to vote in Bloomsburg, too.
Ooh.
I voted for John Kerry.
Oh.
I actually went to his rally, too, at King's College in Williamsport when I was in college.
King's College. Out in Scranton, PA, Wilkes-Barre.
Scranton.
Yeah.
Scrantastic.
I had a huge crush on a girl whose boyfriend went to King's College. Which is why I know it, because he played basketball there, and then they broke up, and I was still so inept. It was my freshman year. I was still so inept. I was just like, oh well, what are you gonna do now? You guys broke up because that means you're single. Oh. We got this project due.
Do you want to be my partner?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's Bloomsburg. So I did that, and then I left. But I left in April.
You left
Bloomsburg. So I did 6 weeks. I did this program. I made up. You
graduated.
Yeah. So it was my second senior year.
Okay.
So after that, I finished it. I only needed 6 credits.
This is 06.
06. So I came home. I went home and I moved. My parents had moved then from Bluebell to Phoenixville, which oddly enough, they technically lived in Phoenixville. It was actually Schuylkill Township.
Okay.
See the townships and the boroughs
yeah,
and the cities.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, see how everything's different. We don't know it. But I stayed there for a week and then moved in with Cassie King and Ryan King in Ambler.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like April. I got a job at the Marriott at the end of April, went back up to Bloomsburg the first week of May and graduated from college and then came back. So I was like 22. I turned 22 May 4th. My birthday was then. And then I graduated that weekend. So it was my second senior year. And I had a boyfriend who then ended up being my husband.
Yeah.
At that time.
I was going to ask how long after graduation in 06 before you got pregnant?
November 11th, he and I decided to move in together. So we got an apartment in English Village. And the date I say because 3 months later I was pregnant. So I always tell my kids, well, I'm telling them now they're never allowed to move in with anybody because I moved in and 3 months later I was pregnant.
Yeah.
I had my daughter, Ava, November 10th. So to me, I was like full year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I got pregnant 9 months after college and had her. And I have to tell you, like in 2007, people did not like unwed young mothers. That was not... people were mean to me. That was like my first experience with getting picked on, I guess you could say.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of some women do struggle with infertility and not being able to get pregnant.
Sure.
And seeing a young girl get pregnant I didn't try. Like It wasn't like I didn't try. We didn't try to have her. And so that was a burden, like not a burden, but like I felt bad for these women.
Yeah.
And then when she was born, so I was 23 when I got pregnant. I was 24 when I had her. And then having her, I didn't know how to hold a baby. I'd never changed the diaper. I changed the diaper like once before. I'd never held a baby. I didn't know what crying was. I didn't know anything. And I had already suffered with anxiety. So I did have postpartum depression. So after I had her, I had postpartum depression, which thank God the nurses, I had her at Paoli Hospital, which is where I work now. So I work on Paoli, but the nurses knew and they were on it and they were great. But the doctor was like, you're breastfeeding. We don't want to give you any medication yet for it, which now they don't mess around with because it's so, but then, so I was like, all right. But then, so 6 weeks later after I had her, so that was hard because I wasn't married.
It's a lot.
Oh, and we bought a house. So when I was August, before I had her in November, we bought a house. And that's the house I still live in.
Okay.
So we bought a house then. So we're 24 years old. I'm 7 months pregnant. We bought a house. It was crazy. It was like crazy.
It's a lot of life.
I just graduated.
You're basically
right?
growing up literally within the year, getting out of college.
And I had to grow up
because you're having a baby.
Yeah. And I had this baby in my belly. Like it wasn't.
It's where they go.
Yeah. But like, it was like in my body. So like, I couldn't like go to the store, like I couldn't go out. So I went out a lot in college and after.
The post-college party.
Yeah. Like I missed.
Reuniting with everyone.
Yeah. And then traveling. Luckily, obviously, I am very fortunate. I traveled a ton in middle school and elementary school.
Right,
like I've been to Disney World. I got to do a lot of stuff. So I was very fortunate. But I always say this thing. It's like, now I have 3 children, but during that time I was having my children, I remember, I think I had my third already. And Suzie was going to Miami for the weekend. And I was like, you're going to Miami and I'm going to buy a minivan this weekend. Like, how is this? This is my life. And it was still hard to like get a grip on it and being young and doing that. So I was sick. I had the postpartum depression, wasn't taking medication for that. At my postpartum visit, they told me like, you got to take something. And I was like, no, so scared. I was breastfeeding. I didn't want to mess with anything with the baby. But then I started having like palpitations and I thought that was from anxiety. So I went to my GP, my family physician, and then it turned out something was wrong on my EKG. So then she was like, 1, you have to start taking medication because you're sad. Like I was depressed. It was awful. And 2, now something's wrong with your heart. So we're going to find out what that is. So I had to go to a cardiologist. I went to a cardiologist and I have PVCs. So they're premature ventricle contractions. It's hormonal. Most of the time hormonal. Women get it a majority of the time. Typically first trimester of pregnancy, third trimester of pregnancy, postpartum, around their menstrual cycles or menopause. Or you can get them other times. But those are like hot times to have them. Alcohol, caffeine, lack of sleep, anxiety. Basically the top part of my heart, when your heart is beating normally, top and bottom, bum, right? With PVCs, the top will beat, the bottom doesn't. So the bottom fills with blood. Typically, heart only fills with halfway. So the bottom fills up all the way with blood, misses a bottom beat, second time beats, and it's a stronger beat. So it's like a super beat. It's not life-threatening, but I did have to take medication for a long time period until I got pregnant again. But also at that time, so that was like 8 weeks postpartum. So I'm dealing with postpartum depression. I'm now taking medication for a heart problem. And then at 12 weeks postpartum, I go back to work at the Marriott. I'm back at work. I got a headache and I'm like, God, my head is killing me. And everyone's like, oh, you're fine. It felt like my ponytail was too tight. And I like couldn't like scratch it. Like I couldn't get it to stop. Like when something's just facing the wrong way, it just hurt. And then food started tasting different. And I thought that the food I was eating was weird. Like it was just, so then like a Monday morning, I had my friends over for the weekend. I was like, something's wrong. She's like, no, you're fine. This food tastes fine. I was like, all right. Monday, I thought I was sick. So I went to the doctor and I tried to move my face. It was so weird. Like something itched on my face. So, like when you try and like put your lips over your teeth or something and my lip was like going the wrong way. I was like, this is so weird. So I went to the doctor. I thought I had a sinus infection and that's what they thought I had. And there's little cues now that I know that happened that I should have said, but like I couldn't keep a thermometer in my mouth when they took my temperature. It kept falling out. And I just held it.
Sounds like a stroke or cerebral palsy.
Oh my God.
Bell's palsy.
Well, that's what I had.
Oh.
I had Bell's palsy. So now, mind you, when I was 9 months pregnant, my ex-husband asked me to marry him in my kitchen. So that night I had a 3-month-old, 12-week-old. So we went to look at dresses as we were trying on like bridesmaids and wedding gowns and stuff. I kept saying to my mom, like, my face feels weird. And she was like, well, smile. I said, I am. She's like, do you want to go to the hospital? And I said, nah, I think my face is just swollen. Because I thought that my sinuses were like,
sure.
That's what it felt like at first. And my head hurt so bad. And I remembered having like the day before that weekend, like the baby was Ava was crying and my hearing hurt. Like it just hurt so bad. Like it was like knocking me on my feet. And I was home alone because Adam was out with friends or something. And so after that, my mom said that. I was like, no, I'm just going to go home. And I like realized my eye stopped working real well and something was wrong. Anyway, I got home and I said, something's wrong with me. And he was like, well, what? And I said, I don't know. My eye, I can't blink. I said, my face feels funny. And he said, at this point, he told me to smile again. And I said, I am smiling. He's like, you're not moving your face. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, we have to get you to a hospital now. So I actually called the doctor. And then he took me to the hospital and he's like, keep trying to move your face. And I couldn't, like my nostrils stopped working, like on my whole left side of my face. So I got to the hospital and that was like an ordeal because we had a 12-week-old baby in a hospital, which I did not want her there. Like I didn't want her near sick people.
Right.
It was December.
Yeah.
Or February. It was February.
Cold season.
It was cold, flu. She's in an emergency room in Doylestown Hospital.
Shit.
Oh my God. We are 24 years old. We're idiots. Like we don't know. Like I don't even think she had socks on. Like we like threw a blanket on top of the car seat and ran out because I thought I was dying. And then I remember they didn't even do a CAT scan, which they should have done a CAT scan at that time, but they didn't, or an MRI. But he came in and he's like, oh, and my speech was slurred. So of course the nurses thought I was having a stroke because what happens with Bell's palsy. So what ended up ultimately happening is that I had a virus. They don't know. Maybe I had a virus. Something happened. I had swelling in the left side of my bottom, like my brain. So I had some kind of damage and that caused swelling. In there's the nerves move around in the back of your brain there. And my 7th cranial nerve hit part of the thing that was swollen. And because of that, damaged that nerve. So then the whole left side of my face was paralyzed. So with that, my taste buds went. And so I had no taste buds, which is
funny.
Which is why everything tasted funny. I had no taste buds on the left side of my tongue. My mouth wasn't working properly, so I was like biting my tongue, which I didn't realize. My hearing was amplified. So like if you hear it like say a 0.1, like mine was like a 20. So when my daughter was crying, it hurt so bad because it was like knocking me over. My ear, like this doesn't typically happen with people. I guess I don't typically have pain, but I had a headache so severe that I thought I had like a aneurysm in my brain. Like I was like, my ear hurt. My physical, like not inside my ear, but like my earlobe hurt. And it was horribly painful. And so when you have Bell's palsy, you can't move. So no taste buds. My tongue didn't work on that side. My eye, I couldn't close my eye.
Right.
So my eye was open all the time. I couldn't move that side of my mouth. So you have 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, Bell's palsy gets as bad as it's going to get. Then there's a hit or miss if it's going to get better, if it's going to go away. They said I had a 15% chance of recovering from it at this point. And I'm thinking, shit, I'm getting married in a couple months. I have a baby. I'm 24. Like, is my face going to be paralyzed for the rest of my life? Yeah. And now, again, this is like 12 years ago. So I don't really remember every exact detail of it. But I knew it was important that I was able to close my eyes. So I had to wear it because they didn't want my cornea to get damaged. So I had to wear like an eye patch. But also steroids. So I took a ton of steroids. They gave me a lot of prednisone. I took a lot of pills. And I worked at the Marriott in the front office. I was a front office like manager. So I remember the doctor came in. He was like, what do you do for a living? I said, oh, I work a front office manager. He's like, yeah, people are going to stare at you. I was like, this is me. Thank you.
Wow.
It's like, this is great. So I stayed home from work for a week. But so the next day I called
a week.
Yeah, I took off a week.
Yeah,
and my face
better.
I looked like Rocky. I looked like
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone. Like my face, the whole left side of my face was like, and luckily I'm young, so my skin was tight in my face, so it wasn't drooping that bad, but like it was bad. So by that night, my face was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move it. And so that was February of 2008. Okay. Because Ava was born in November, then 2008. We had like a massive snowstorm. And my mom like couldn't come to help me because like she couldn't drive there. So Suzie got in her car and drove through this horrible weather and came and helped me the next day because Adam went to work and I was afraid to be home alone. And so she came and she stayed with me. And thank God I couldn't have done it. Like, that's why I say I have like a great support system because I mean, she didn't know what she was doing. She stayed with me and helped me take care of the baby. Like,
good practice for her.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, and now her kid's like 5. So I mean, her oldest is 3 years younger than my like youngest. But I mean, I was like, I don't know. I was so lucky. I couldn't
Yeah, that's cool to have someone.
Yeah. So it was kind of, some points it was funny. I had to wear an eye patch. I couldn't, only eye patch at night because I couldn't close my eye to sleep.
Right.
And so I would like try and like, I would like hold my eye down to blanket.
You had no control of it.
Oh, I had no control. I couldn't move that side of my face. So it always looked like I was talking out of like one side. And when I ate, food would like fall. I was like drooling. It was awful.
Yeah.
And the funny part, there's a couple of funny parts of it. But like, you know how I thought that if I smiled that half of my face would look normal and the other half would just be complete, like not move. So I thought it would look like if you actually smile and like put a line or a mirror or wall, something in between it. I looked like Two-Face from Batman.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, and it looked like I was growling at people.
I feel like I got that tape somewhere.
Yeah. No, I looked like I was growling. Like it didn't look like a half smile. It looked like I was actually like growling and gnarling at
Bell's
people.
palsy. So I worked at WWE. And Bell's palsy, there's a commentator. It used to be at WWE, now is another company, but Bell's palsy is like a huge part of his history. He had 2, maybe 3 bouts of it. While and he's he was a broadcaster, a commentator, and
it's uncommon for it to happen more than once. They told me that my chances of getting it were the same as anyone else's getting it. Again, like they said, I shouldn't.
He got it twice, once on the air.
He must have had a reoccurring.
Yeah, and
it's so scary too when it happens like that. It was awful.
Yeah,
it was awful. I mean, and just saying like at that point, that's when I was very self-conscious about it. But and actually, my husband at the time, he was really good. He was really good with that part. But he got me fake glasses. That helped so much because people like having something. Well, one, it protected my eye, but 2, they looked at the glasses instead of my face. So that helped. But it was painful.
Yeah, I mean, you just had a kid, but you're about to get married and
Oh yeah, he wasn't my husband at the time, he was my boyfriend.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine that pressure or that just internal thought of you look different than you did when he proposed to you. Well,
the good thing is that when he proposed to me, I was 9 months pregnant, so I looked a lot different no matter what. But self-conscious, like I had just had a baby, so like obviously I gained weight, and then my face was totally not it was not what it was before. I had pain, I had postpartum depression, and I had a heart condition. So I'm seeing a cardiologist. I'm going to therapy at this point. I'm taking medications, a lot of different medications. I was actually, one of the parts was funny because they were like, now it's funny. They were like, so I take steroids, and they're like, oh, well, your heart rate's going to go up and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm also taking like Zoloft. And they were like, well, that will help. And I was like, all right. You know what I mean? So and I was like, that sounds great. And I was also taking like, I can't remember the heart medication I was taking for my heart. So I'm taking like all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And I have a new baby. It was just crazy. Yeah. But I have to say, my sister, Shotlin, at that time lived in New York. She came home. My mom retired from work. Like I could never say like how much my support system. I am such a lucky person.
Yeah.
And I mean, my sister came home and helped me too a little bit after. I think it was around that time. My mom retired from work in January. So I and Suzie was there. I was just so, Elisa came, Chrissy. I mean, I just really had these people who were such a good support system that I didn't even have to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, not many people have that. And I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
Because they were great. And then, you know, I did get better. I remember like the first day my face started twitching. And I was like,
feeling.
My face is moving.
Yeah.
And then
you recovered incredibly. Like, you're like 100% recovered, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a neurologist would probably tell you that I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember afterwards, like going to see a neurologist. And if you've ever gotten an MRI of your brain, that is the weirdest thing.
No. I've had CAT scan, but not an MRI.
I had an MRI of your back is like your whole body goes in the tube.
Right.
So
I've had
that's
that.
your back, like you're all the way in. For
Right.
your head, you're not.
Okay.
Now, again, I had a 3-month-old baby. I'm on all this medication. I was tired of shit. And I had Bell's palsy. They put like a helmet. It looked like a Roman helmet. Like it was like right touching my face. This thing like went over. And they put like a thing over it. And then I think they put earphones in, like little tiny pods in my ear, and then slid me in. And they said, it's going to be loud as hell. You're going to be afraid if you need help, like to hit this button, we'll take you out. I'm exhausted.
But then you got to start over.
Yeah. So I
hold out as long as you can.
It's like clang, 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 bang, 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 ding, 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 so crazy in my head as I have this pain and all this stuff.
2008.
2008.
Yeah. So I imagine 11 years more technology.
Oh my God.
Gotten better.
It was awful. But I have to tell you, I fell asleep.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And they were like screaming. I woke up.
God, it's over.
I woke up and they're yelling and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I closed my eyes because, and I'm not a good sleeper, but I was so tired.
Yeah.
I had a newborn. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
A couple minutes of freedom.
Yeah, I couldn't. I like barely could change her diaper. Like I just was like knew nothing. So I was like, I will fall asleep anywhere at any time. And that's why I feel bad for my poor Ava because she really she grew up with me a lot. But then I recovered and I was fine. And
wow,
so
that's great.
I was lucky. I feel very fortunate just because I just adjust. I mean, honestly, eating was like hard. And I got cavity because I couldn't get food out of me. And I couldn't taste things. Can I tell you what I thought I had? I thought I had, at first, I thought I had like botulism.
Oh my gosh.
Because botulism, I thought I ate something.
Were you Googling this shit?
No, I worked at a hotel at the Marriott and a chef came in and he was like, "Oh, you might have botulism."
Oh, never listen to a chef. Chefs are certifiably crazy.
They
All
are.
chefs are batshit crazy.
Because nerve damage with like botulism or whatever.
Oh my God.
I was like, great. I probably ate a swollen can of something and I have botulism.
The last thing to do before we stop recording.
Oh, your yearbook. I was like, is it take a selfie? Yearbook.
We will take a selfie.
So do you have people sign like their names in high school or like, do I sign my signature? Like you have people sign the yearbook, but when they sign their name, they don't use their full, like their first and last name.
You just sign it however you like to sign it.
I was like thinking about that. I was like, because people have different names than they did in high school, right?
Yeah. People write, like, it doesn't have to be like a formal thing. Some people write a little message. Some people just sign their name. So you sign what you would like to sign. Isn't
it funny how like in high school we didn't sign our pictures?
I know. Well, because you had to like leave all this space. Otherwise it would be littered.
Did you ever look and see if anyone who is like you do the podcast with signed your yearbook?
Yeah. So famously, when I started this, I didn't think anyone ever saw my yearbook. So when I started thinking about this, I was like, oh, I got to have people sign my yearbook. And I have now since looked and like I had tons of signatures.
There's so many. Oh my gosh. There's so many.
The only one I like clearly remember is that Christian Warren wrote something in there because he actually wrote something about me going to WWE. And then I actually went to WWE. Yeah.
You credit him for that.
So that's the only one I actually like remember. But I know that like, you know, I know my friends signed it and some other random people signed it.
This is like, did you go back now since and read it?
Yeah. Some of them I don't know who they are. Some of them
why if they don't write their name?
I think they all do.
Well, this one person. But I like the one that I don't see the name on that bottom one, but I like it because they put about you watching the Sixers. And obviously they
stay cool. I'll probably see you tonight to watch the Sixers. Good luck in school next year. People like you and I never lose touch. We have a special connection. It's Scott.
Oh, okay. Scott Ritter.
Yeah. Matt Jones. Christy McQuade.
No, that was a teacher.
Rodrigo.
Is that a teacher? It says Miss in front of it, doesn't it?
Miss Christy. Yeah.
I think that was a teacher. Probably a substitute teacher.
Rodrigo, Malik Carr, Mr. Brody, Katie Ryan. I don't know who this person is. Although they said they've known me forever.
Did they put their name on the bottom?
Yeah. Right down here.
It's Aaliyah, isn't it? Bradshaw? No?
Aaliyah Bradshaw?
Aaliyah?
God, don't say Aaliyah.
Sorry. I used to work with a girl named Aaliyah. Sorry, Aaliyah.
I dated an Aaliyah. It's the only girl I ever loved. So it's like when I interviewed Aaliyah, the first thing I said to her is like, if I start calling you Aaliyah, it's totally accidental.
See, that's the hard part because like I worked with someone with Aaliyah and friends with her, and it was just hard. It's hard to like when I heard you guys do your conversation, I kept wanting to say that, and I was like, no, it's Aaliyah.
Yeah, Erica Smursley. She hated me. Steve Sellers.
She hated you yet. She signed it.
Chris Warren. Yeah. Do you want to know Erica Smursley? Well, this has been an interesting year. I guess it's been cool getting to know you, even though most of the time you annoy the hell out of me. Well, good luck next year and all the years to follow. Have fun.
I think that's a pretty good thing if she didn't like you. She's pretty.
It's like they were like just forced to because they don't want to. Bethany is probably my favorite one to hear. Bethany wrote something.
Bethany Smith.
Yeah. So the senior year after Ray died, I spent a lot of time hanging out in the library during lunch. And I just started skipping lunch and I started hanging out in the library, and Bethany had study hall. And for some reason, I just, I always had a crush on Bethany. I'd known her since Shady Grove, 5th grade. We had class together. And so I just started hanging out with her. And I just would like ask her. It was a weird thing where it's like, one of those things where I definitely feel like I never felt like I belonged in high school, like hanging out with Bethany. And so she was someone that I really lost complete contact with. And then we were just hanging out and she didn't like make me leave. Is that, what I mean?
What's interesting I remember about her? I hung out with her in high school and I knew her parents and like went to her house and stuff like that. And I played sports together and like softball when we were younger. And she was someone who I think had the potential to be like one of those girls who was like super popular and like did like that's how, because she was so chipper, so bright, so and like the popular girl. But then as like high school went on, you just realize how normal she was. I mean it, and now looking back, I mean now seeing like that she was sad, and you can see that she did have like a real tone to her. It wasn't like she wasn't fake. So I had class with her and stuff in high school. But she was not someone who she never made me feel like I shouldn't have talked to her,
And no one ever made me feel that way. Some people, of course, I had like direct confrontation with, and no one ever made me feel that way. And that's part of this podcast is learning that I felt like that because I felt like there were these class boundaries and you're super cool and I can't talk to you and I can't. And I've had like the greatest time hanging out with you now for 4 hours. We've been hanging out.
Been 4 hours.
Yeah. And we've just been having like a great time, just having conversation and stuff. Yeah. But I couldn't have ever done that in 11th and 12th grade. And so I really actually got to do that final semester with Bethany and ask her about like, sadly, the future, what she wanted to do and how she wanted to be an engineer. And I remember like asking,
cars. She loved cars. I remember
asking her and I felt so stupid. I had no idea. She's like, I want to be an engineer. I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, well, like engineers design car engines. And I'm like, so you want to be like a mechanic? She's like, no, I want to like do the science that builds the engines that goes into the car. And I was like, oh, wow.
The fact that she knew that.
Yeah. And I had these, I just had really long conversations with her and I was skipping lunch to do it. And I didn't really like feel like I had anywhere else to go. Like I really, really enjoyed the time. I remembered it so clearly. And we had like an inside joke where that I was stalking her. That was kind of like, I don't know if I really ever told anyone this, but the inside joke was that I was stalking her.
Yeah.
And she wrote something like that in the yearbook. About like, I'm sure I'll find you again because you're always like stalking me. Even though you stalk me, I guess that you're all right. Just kidding. It's been fun since 5th grade in Mrs. Rowe's class, and I'm sad that it's all over. Not too sad though, but don't worry. I'll still be stalking you next year in college. You better watch out. Love always, Bethany. And the last time I ever talked to Bethany was after, I think right after college or right after high school. She was in the supermarket and I was on the phone with Scott Ritter, and he's like, dude, you're never going to believe this. Bethany is like here in the supermarket. I'm like, oh my God, dude, give her the phone. He's like, no. I'm like, no, it's going to be good. Like, give her the phone. Yeah. And he's like, hey, someone wants to talk to you. And I go, I'm watching you right now. And she knew it. She's like, Brad? And I'm like, so I talked to her for like, 4 or 5 minutes. And that's the last time I talked to Bethany. And I always felt just a little bit of, I don't know. I mean, of course, sadness, but I always felt lucky that because I grew up with her in 5th grade. And of course, when you have like a crush, and I feel this way with a lot of like different crushes, like I feel like a certain attachment depending on the time it was. And that was, such a time of innocence, 5th grade. And so I remember her from that time. Yeah. And so to get to have that moment of conversation with her in my senior year at a really hard time in my life, it meant a lot to me. And of course, the amount of time I've gone on about it, like it's something that I remember very, very, very clearly. Yeah, very vividly. So I'm thankful for that. And I think about that whenever now I see the yearbook and I see that I didn't remember that she remembered that until I started doing this podcast. And I thought I better look through these yearbook. And I went, oh my God, I can't believe she wrote that. Yeah.
And then I saw her, she came up to Bloomsburg in the summer. And then we found out that when she had died, Jeff Pan called me and he went to Penn State with her and he ran to her dorm. So I remember that. But then, I mean, we can talk more about this later, but I like, because you then having lost Ray senior year and then finding a solace and speaking to somebody else. And then a couple months later, weird, like not even a full year later. I mean, we were Saw's
freshman year.
So
first
it was
semester, I think.
Yeah. And so then she passed away at Penn State, and then that funeral and everything was huge.
Couldn't go. I wanted to go. I couldn't.
It was televised. It was like there were so many people. There were kids in the basement of and it was in Flowertown, and there was cameras. Like it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I couldn't do it for me.
No, but just to think about like what you went through dealing with a loss at 18 years old, and then finding solace in someone who then passed away. So that's something that's extremely heavy and tough to deal with at a young age. Yeah, I didn't even know how to deal with it.
I think of the friends whenever, and we've lost so many. I think of the friends because I think of us, and quite honestly, all of our friendships of Ray's, we've all splintered since then. And some of us it's just because we're just all living life. Josh and Alyssa have kids and all that, but some of us, broke off from the group and had hard times. And I think about how that's directly related to Ray's passing, and so I think of what I think. In this podcast form, I would think of a lot of times with the people that we've lost would be the cool kids. I think of a lot of those cool kids that I had zero relationship with, and a lot of times I think about how I think that maybe affected them, and I just hope that even with zero relationship and zero conversation with any of them, I hope that they're all okay. Yeah, and they continue to carry those memories as I have with Ray and Ray's family, and just keep those memories with them so that they can get through it. I was 17 at the time. It was a really hard time to go through that, but those factors of like someone you grew up with and then losing that from your life is a really hard thing. So I just, it's something I always kind of keep with me whenever we lose someone from that group. Yeah. That's sad.
It is sad.
Tell me about it while you sign my yearbook. Tell me about your favorite class. Did you have a favorite class?
Like teaching? Yeah. Teacher class? Mr. Curcio.
Oh, really?
Do you remember him?
Yeah, I had Mr. Curcio the 1 year that we did block scheduling, and I had Curcio for an entire semester. and you can take any of these pens.
Wait,
that are
is
here.
it bad that I have to say the alphabet in my head to figure out where I am?
No, it was
LM.
same thing with me when I'm.
I was
looking
like, where's
through,
C come in here? Oh, there I am.
Yeah, Mr. Curcio, any of those pens, we'll see which ones work.
Like which one I like. I'm a big pen person.
Okay.
I'm feeling it out.
Well, one of them is a sperm pen, so.
What does that mean?
It's a sperm.
Oh my god, there's sperm in it. I'm not using that. I've had enough of that. No more babies.
Oh god, I feel like I need to clarify that way
sorry.
better.
I have 3 children. I don't need to get pregnant by a pen today.
It's a pen that has
sperm in it. Oh yeah, I thought you meant like why I didn't need any more sperm.
I feel like I need to clarify what it was that I was trying to give you here. It's a pen that has plastic sperm.
Sorry, that's
flirting or I don't want to scare people away from this podcast.
He was trying to give me the sperm. I don't know what was my favorite class, Mr. Curcio.
Yeah, so Mr. Curcio I loved. He was a fun guy.
He was. He was my English teacher. Mm-hmm. And I remember he was like the tests. I remember the tests and the spelling tests. And one of our spelling words was like boombastic.
Oh.
And one was like toke. And he was like toke.
You know, like toke.
Yeah.
You know.
And then like we would have a spelling test and he was like, I'm going to step out for a minute. And he would leave. And he's like, he put his head back and he's like, the answers are on the back wall. And he'd like leave. Yeah. And then like we have a Scantron test. Yeah. And it was like every question, like we had to, he's like every answer is like the same except for like the last one. So like everything was like yes or A. And the last one was like D or something. And if we got the last one wrong, or if we got something wrong, like he'd fail us. Or I don't know, something like that. But anyway, I really appreciated him as a teacher.
He was a super realistic guy. I remember we had a book report we had to do on Catcher in the Rye, and I didn't read it. Still never read it to this day.
I remember reading it.
Yeah, I didn't read it, and he was like, "Oh, your book report's due." To be completely, I think Mr. Curcio was gay.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he was.
Yeah, so very flamboyant. So what I'm saying is because this is the voice of the hair. It's like, oh, your project's due, your book report's due, and I'm like, oh, Mr. Curcio, I hate that fucking book. I can't read that shit. It's culturally biased. Like, oh, well, why don't you just write me something 20 pages then? You need to do a report on something 20 pages, and you have to write it and give it to me in a week. So I said, can I write it on pro wrestling? He's like, yes. And so I wrote a 20-page report on the history of the WWE title. And he gave me a fucking A for it.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. Like I've never had teaching like that in my life. It was incredible. Shout out to Mr. Curcio.
Yeah, a shout out to him. And I don't know whatever happened to him, if he ever was in school after that or whatever.
He's not a guy that people like champion. He's not like on Facebook.
I thought he was amazing. I mean, as a teacher, and I think it was like my only honors class in high school. I loved being in his class.
He was great.
He was great. He always made me feel good about myself too. Yeah,
a lot of creativity in his class. I used to write stories with Scott Jordan in his class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like he
I
was
liked our high school.
He was a really fun teacher. So you like to see I don't feel like I liked high school. I liked the aspect of it.
Again, I told you I'm the opposite person. I had confidence, extreme confidence, like
and you were popular.
Body confidence. I was not. I did not feel popular.
And you didn't have any issues with people.
I had no issue. I mean, I don't think I did.
No.
I don't remember having any issues with people.
No,
I loved high school. It's not like it was my prime. I loved other parts of my life too. It's not like I went downhill after that, but like I loved, I thought it was funny. I felt good about it, and I didn't feel like I just felt normal.
Yeah.
But I liked it, and I liked our principal, Mr. Anderson was our principal. I loved him. I liked the teachers.
Yeah.
Now I did get in trouble. I mean, I had detention, and I got sent home from school once. Mr. Madden, man, he got me. But because I wore a spaghetti strap tank top, so he made me go home early, and I was like, okay. So I think Lindsay Barley had to go home too. And I had a car. So we just drove to someone's house and hung out all day instead. And I called my mom. I was like, yeah, they're sending me home. She's like, you shouldn't have worn that tank top. I was like, yeah, I heard. And then I did have a teacher. I can't remember his name, but I know we talked earlier about like inappropriately touching people. This one teacher, he used to like play with my hair. Oh, he would like take a bobby pin out of my hair and like do something. Gross. And so he would give me detention and I would skip it. And I was like, I'm not going to his detention. He's
I
creepy.
remember who it is.
It wasn't like, it was like the Dare, we had like Dare. And I feel like the Dare cop always came to his class. Maybe it was like I don't remember what kind of class it was. And so I
don't like where this is going at all.
I got called for like in-school suspension. Remember how they used to call you?
Yep.
So the disciplinarian, whatever his name was, came out.
Jalboot. Was it for ISS?
Yeah.
The guy who used to run it?
Yeah, who was that?
Mr. Jalboot? Big guy?
I don't even remember.
Big guy?
No. No.
Mr. Jalboot used to run ISS.
So someone like came, like they would come and get us and then have
Jalboot didn't walk anywhere.
No. So this guy, like, it was like not Mr. Madden, but someone else anyway. He came to get me.
Security guard, like Tyrone?
No, my God. Remember him chasing us, I feel. No, this is like one of the admin.
Okay.
Anyway, he came and was like, you're going to have like, I said, there was like problem. They were saying like, I might not graduate because I skipped this class. And I said, listen, I don't go to his detentions because I don't feel comfortable with the way that he touches me. He touched my hair. He says stuff to me in class. Like, he's a jerk. And the teacher said, don't go to his class again.
Shit.
He just said to me, sit straight, you're not going to get in trouble, but don't go back to his class.
Yeah.
And that was my 9th period. And so for the last like 6 weeks of school, I just left a period early.
Wow.
And I did not pass that class, but they did not stop me from graduating.
Huh.
And I was like, okay. I just never went. I don't even know if I ever told my parents.
Wow. It's out now.
Yeah, sorry, Mom. Sorry. I'm sorry, Mom.
It's out.
I skipped class, but it was because I was a strong, independent woman. I did not want a man playing with my bobby pins in my hair. Isn't it funny, the initials? Did you put initials in yours?
Yeah.
The microphone's touching my hair.
Yeah, I probably put Ray and Scott.
I have like, it's so funny. 2 of my friends had the same initials. So Christina Kolak and Cassie King. And I have Chrissy Mullet, Susie Mullet. I think I put Lauren Hilton in here. I did love Lauren Hilton.
Lauren Hilton.
I did. I had a class with her. I don't know LH. I don't know anyone else. I wasn't really like good friends with her. I just loved her.
You just loved her.
I did. Jen Becerra, and then I don't know who KM is.
I think we had to do these in 11th grade. I mean, it's possible we did them in 12th, but it could have been just like a time in your life where like you were hanging.
No, I think that I was friends with her like in 9th grade. Like, she played softball, and she, we had a history class together, and we sat next to each other, and I think I just like, maybe she was like my girl crush. Just liked her. I don't know who KM is though. Oh.
KM. Kate Mole.
That's the only one I can think of. No, I have no. I think
had to be Kate Mole.
Yeah, it had to be. No. If anyone else was friends with me with
if any other KMs out
there, hit me up.
Yeah, get at her.
Get at. Did you sign over your picture? I'm like trying to. No.
Yeah, people. Suzie. Yeah, people just signed over the picture.
Okay. Has anyone brought their books yet?
Has anyone what?
Brought their yearbooks for you to sign?
No.
That would have been good.
I don't know what I would write. I have no idea. I would just.
This is where I am right now. I like, what's the typical thing that people write? Like, keep in touch. Remember that?
I mean, really just, some people, like, you just sign your name. You could say it was, some people are just like writing about the experience of the recording. Like, hey, it was fun. Some people have very emotional responses to the podcast and like,
yeah, I'm
so glad he did this. Other people were like, I think felt bad that I felt like I wasn't a cool kid, and like, you're great. Never forget how great you are. My biggest concern is that the pen works for you.
Oh, it worked.
Cool.
But my handwriting is really big.
Sorry.
And my face is going to be gone.
This is like the artistic. Now, at this point, the yearbook is just artistic. It's not to necessarily read over it anymore.
My name is so long that I haven't written my full name in many years. Because my last name, McQuade, is now my middle name. So I'm Briannon McQuade Sujdak.
Yeah.
It's like, it takes me 10 minutes to write the whole thing out. So I just do like a lot of scribbles.
BS.
Okay,
BMS.
listen, my whole life I've been, my initials used to be BM, bowel movement.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got married and it was BS.
Oh, yeah.
This is bullshit. So I've been full of shit my whole life. Yeah. That's what I say. But I'm like, that's why I always use my middle initial.
There you go.
And then I was Judith as my middle name. So it was BJ for a long time too. So I really couldn't catch a break. But I am now BMS.
You're now BMS.
That works.
All right. What a great way to end it.
I know. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. That was Briannon Sujdak. Thank you, Briannon, for just such a fun time. Yes, we actually did talk for about 4 hours. And so there is, obviously, this is not quite a 4-hour episode, but there is quite a little bit of more conversation that Briannon and I had that possibly will see the light of day again at some point. We talked about a lot of different things, and I'll be completely honest, I struggled with even leaving some of the stuff in. I'm not one to really edit the episodes. I know some people have had questions about that, but I don't really remove part of the interview for the sake of making me look good or necessarily making my guests sound good. If it's extreme or if it's some sort of a technical thing, I might remove it. If I'm doing it for time and I think it's repetitive, redundant, whatever, I might take it out. But generally, I'm letting the entire interview fly. This one just being so long, there are just some parts that I thought Briannon and I were just kind of having one-on-one conversation that maybe necessarily wasn't going to make the interview any better or interesting. And so I removed it. But there are times that, I listen to things and I don't really remove them, but I kind of go, oh God, I wonder what people's reaction will be to this. You got to remember, I'm putting myself out there. And so the story that I tell about Bethany at the end of this podcast is a story that I've kind of, I've shared with some people from time to time, but not really a lot of people, and certainly not on this podcast. I don't know. It's funny that I've talked a lot about Ray, and I don't know. I don't really even have a problem doing it. It's not very difficult for me to talk about, a relationship with my best friend growing up. But this story about Bethany and what she wrote in my yearbook and the final semester of high school is something that I've really kept kind of close to the vest. It's something that was extremely personal to me. But to be quite honest, I couldn't figure out a way to pull it out of the interview and not do the interview justice. I thought it would have been awkward and weird. And it was one of those moments where I just had to say, it's one of those things where you just got to take a leap and you just have to let it fly. And so I let it stay in there. Again, that's not something that I normally even struggle with as far as pulling content out of an interview. It's not something I do. But this was something that, because I've never really talked about it, and I don't know, it's something that was kind of very personal to me that I've been holding on to a little bit, I guess. Wasn't even sure about letting it out, but there it is. Something else that I did want to just address, because we talk about it here near the end, is some of the teachers that we've had. We talked a little bit about it with Japanese class, and then some of the teachers that we've mentioned later on that we had have had some controversial times, criminal times. I don't really know how to explain it. It's fucking awkward, guys, when you have someone that, was in charge of your education, and then 10, 15, 20 years later, you're reading about them online, about how they're going to jail or they've been fired. And so I don't know the right way to talk about it, but to be quite honest, I just didn't want to have to keep pulling crap out of the interviews. And so this is something that has kind of come up briefly in the past. We've somewhat danced around it from time to time in other interviews, but we kind of got heavy into it, and Briannon was into talking about it, and I felt like, fuck it, we're just going to roll with this thing. And so we talk about it. I hope nobody is uncomfortable. This is all first time stuff for me too, guys. So with that said, a lot of stuff we talked about, but I just really enjoyed the interview, and, enjoying my time continuing to talk to Briannon, and much like Suzie, looking forward to getting together with Briannon again. And just thank you for being so honest. No topic was off limits for Briannon. She was down to talk about everything. And so that always makes these interviews so much more fun. And really, I feel like I got to know Briannon really well for a first time hangout, as is often becoming the case with a lot of these guests. So speaking of guests, in 2 weeks, my guest will be Aram Lee. Now, I'm going to tell you flat out, I think there's going to be parts of this interview that myself, I'm slightly embarrassed with. I don't know how to explain this, but it was really, really important to me for this podcast to have Asian representation. we went to school with a large community of Asians who came to this country at a young age with their parents. And we'll get into it in the podcast. I felt a lot of times were segregated from the rest of the school. And I don't have many contacts on social media as I do with a lot of other students with the Asian population of my high school. It was something that I was immediately aware of and something that I wanted to make sure that I targeted especially hard so that I didn't get so far down into the podcast and get 30 episodes deep. And I have never talked to anyone Asian. I thought that was going to be lopsided and boring. And so I reached out to Aram, and he was super cool about coming down and talking to me about Asian shit. And this interview is going to be a lot of me just asking him questions that I've never asked anybody from high school. As far as, why was this happening? Why was I seeing this? What was this like? Explain this to me. And some of this stuff, I'm just going to sound stupid asking these questions. And I can only imagine if someone were asking me these questions about being biracial, I don't know, I might roll my eyes at some of these questions too. And with most of these guests, I don't know them beyond high school or even in high school. But with Aram, I never even saw him around. I had no clue what he was doing. I never really saw pictures of him on Facebook. I never saw him in the neighborhood. I didn't see him at Montgo. I didn't see him at Temple. I never ran into him at Reed's. And so really this was like a lot at once of, one, learning about him in high school, but two, also learning about what his life is like now. And this interview is going to have, for me, some shocking moments. And I just hope that at the end of this interview with Aram, I come out sounding like I learned something, because I think I did. And yeah, I just wanted to say that, in that I think I went into this interview with extremely embarrassing goals, but Aram handled me like a champ, and we had a great time. And I'm excited to bring you guys that interview in 2 weeks on a Monday morning. So before we say goodbye, of course, the social media at We Weren't Friends in High School on Instagram, at WWF in High School on Twitter. I'm at REDSHIRTPLAYA. And that's about it. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks on a Monday morning with my next guest, Aram Lee. Later.